Okay, 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Underwood, absent and excused. Gilman,
Here.
Horn, here. Lehman,
Here.
Head.
Here. Quorum. Next item is approval of the agenda. I do not see any blue sheets here, so do any commissioners wish to add or subtract any item from the
Motion to
agenda?
approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Lehman, support by Commissioner Horn to approve the agenda as presented. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Agenda is approved. Next item is conflict of interest. Do any of the commissioners have any conflict of interest regarding any item on the agenda?
Does it matter that I live off of one of the roads on the project?
Which one are we talking about?
Zimmerman.
No, I think we have already talked. I think,
We're good?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's a conflict. Okay, seeing none. We are on to public comment. Do any members of the public wish to make any public comment at this time? Seeing none. Item 7A is we have an appointment with Mr.
Light,
Light.
not easier than it was.
I know. And I've known Director Rotary for a while, and I still couldn't pronounce it last. I'm sorry. And Mr. Menzel regarding a Menzel property easement on M72 US 31 in Acme Township. So, gentlemen, whoever wants to go first.
I'll go and you can follow me because you have all the information. You need address and that?
No.
Well, I didn't think I'd have to be back before you again, but in our attempts, and Dan was helping work through that, trying to get this straightened out. We ran into a bureaucratic nightmare. And based on that, we decided there may be a better, more palatable solution. Property's been vacant for a few years, and we're close to having something in there. And we're here now because the prospective tenant has asked us to come forward and try to get this resolved. So I'll let Greg talk about the issues that we had to go through. Because we first were going to just acquire it, and what we'd like to do is a simple solution to that now. So Greg, would you do that, please?
Yeah, just a picture of the area that we're talking about. This is at the corner of M72 and US 31.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The other pictures.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is what is known as Huffman Road, which is just to the east of the property. And we're really talking about the west 24 feet of that right of way. And as commissioners may recall, last July, Mr. Menzel was here and this commission approved actual outright ownership transfer of that west 24 feet. The problem that we ran into is that requires an amendment of the plat of which the road is a part of, and as you're well familiar, that the requirements associated with that very burdensome and some procedural hurdles that just didn't make sense. And so what we're here tonight to suggest is a more limited request, just modifying the request as opposed to outright ownership. It would be a non-exclusive easement that would allow for the use of that west 24 feet. It provides some information that what the current proposed tenants, a Taco Bell restaurant, is planning on doing is their parking may extend slightly into that, an enclosure for a dumpster. Their drive-through might be coming in there. So it's not exclusive ownership or use. It would be non-exclusive. But it would allow the tenant to use that, and the tenant will has agreed to maintain it. And we commit to that as the owner. And I would take the laboring owner and drafting that easement document, provide it to the commission and its council for review, and we can hammer out any details, but I wanted to get approval for that more limited request from the commission tonight. So happy to answer any questions. Tom's here to answer questions as well if there are any.
Any questions?
Well, I mean, it's a different way to skin the cat. I guess if you go the path of least resistance and everything. So, in this easement you're talking, obviously you're talking a long term. So it'd be in perpetuity or with an expiration, what do you think?
It would be in perpetuity, similar to what the ownership would have looked like, but just a more limited scope of what's being transferred.
And is there any building? I mean, would there be any building on it other than ground improvements?
No.
Okay.
It would be to use, I mean, there might be a temporary structure or something like this, the enclosure, for example, for the dumpster, but we're not talking about putting a building.
So the easement, it would run with the land then?
Correct.
So any future owner of the property could potentially erect a building within the easement, or will you have some language in there specifically excluding the erection of any building?
I mean, it would be, it's certainly that's not our contemplation that a building would be erected if that was important. I mean, I don't, is that a concern, Tom? I'll let you speak to that.
There isn't enough room to build a building. It's small. What we plan on doing would be to have parking, and parking could be open to the public as well. Wouldn't be just for Taco Bell and for the dumpster, and that would be the only use. If there was a need to put something restrictive in that, that would be fine. It's just that they've explained to me that they need something called staging, stacking when they come and drive through. And it would be very helpful if they could use what they have for stacking, and then employees could park there.
Right, well, the only reason I asked is like, if we are just talking about the easement running with the land, obviously, who knows, in the future, if there's no Taco Bell and someone decides to put that property to a different use.
Yeah.
And they come up with a way to erect a building.
They're proposing a 15-year lease, and at 80, they won't be me up on a deal again. But I don't think.
Tommy, I have a long lifeline.
Yeah.
Technology has come along.
Showing the wear and tear of years.
Yeah.
But if there was something that needed to be put in there, they would make it exclusive of that. But we thought we'd make it in perpetuity, and it would be just designed for parking, but open to the public. It was used periodically. It hadn't been maintained because it's been vacant for a few years. I've been out mowing the thing, and in fact, it was a dead tree. I removed that. I didn't. I had somebody do it. So, and this way, Taco Bell would maintain it and take care of it. It would look nice. It would fit into their overall landscaping plan. The township would have like an election day or something. They'd have people park there, but they're gone now, and they're moving in their offices. So it's really vacant.
That's not going to be a voting precinct there still? I mean, it may be.
If it is, they can park there if they want, but it was, I think, certainly, the only time I know was there was an overflow, there's a few parking spots. They parked.
Greg, this is more a question for you. Could you do an easement in perpetuity?
Yeah,
Most are. Right?
yeah.
No, most of the term. Okay, so the language would basically say easement and running with the land
Correct.
for
Certainly.
ever.
In perpetuity.
Yeah.
Okay,
But you still maintain ownership that way.
right.
It makes it much simpler than what we were
Right.
trying to do. And
Well-
we'd worked on trying to get that resolved, but it just got to the point it was.
No, I know it's very,
Cost
the
prohibitive.
platinum
That
actually.
actually answers the other question, whether or not somebody coming later could put something up. If we retain ownership and then it's just simply an easement, they still have no right. They could use
Well, it depends on the scope of the easement. That's why I was asking that question.
a non-construction easement. We name it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be more comfortable if we had some language in there that
We can make it
excludes
restricted.
any,
I'm
yeah.
fine with that. Just maybe you say just parking and maybe the dumpster, and that would be the only use for it. That
Right.
would be fine.
surface and
And obviously, the maintenance of the easement would be at the Correct.
That's
The
what we
burden,
have to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
And I think you got a letter that
Sure.
said they would take care of that and fill it into their overall landscaping plan, so it look a lot nicer.
Don't have any more questions to any of.
I have a no,
Sure.
I don't believe. I think it's, matter of fact, I think it's our policy if people ask to park within our easements, to construct parking lots within our easements, we say no. And this would be,
That's our easement though. This would be an easement to,
it's our property or our easement now, and we're talking about retaining ownership of it. It would be no different than if Meyer said to us, you know, we just need to be a little closer to the lot and everybody else does it. Well, there's not quite enough room on the lot line. We need to move. Your easement's too big. You don't need it. I don't think we don't think we even authorize parking within our easements.
So I want to be clear that we are talking the same thing. Are you talking easement or right of way?
Well, is it how do we own it now?
We own the
own
piece
that.
simple, right? We own the land. Usually we own the right of way of a public road, and the underground, the land beneath that road is owned by someone else.
there are people parking at it right now as it is.
Typically, that's how it works. This is our land.
So
That's why we are
if
giving.
somebody gets hurt or falls out of the car on our land,
Within the easement area, we'll have liability language in their assumption of liability within the easement.
That's why the advantage is they can put it under their liability.
Yeah,
policy.
and they will have to have insurance and everything for that.
Yeah.
It will get reviewed by our attorney,
Okay.
obviously.
and if we if we needed a piece of property like this, would someone offer us the same sort of terms in a reciprocal fashion, do you think? If we said, you know, we need this for a right-hand turn lane, you're really not using that front part of the property, so the road commission would, do you think from a property owner, we would get reciprocal? We typically have to buy an easement to use if we want it.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a fee associated with it, absolutely.
Will there be a fee associated with this?
That's a question. I don't know what was the previous decision, but, what were did we agree on it? Do you
I
guys
don't
remember?
believe
There was no.
No, I don't think they had.
We were throwing around numbers. I think.
Our previous decision was to transfer ownership of that for, I think, $1.
Yes.
Or maybe it was
Okay.
$1 because you have to have some consideration for that. So
And,
we
and
were,
I thought we should sell it to Tom at the fair market price.
There's no value. Can't build on it. It's worthless.
Well, it has some value to Taco Bell, or you wouldn't be asking us for it, Tom.
Well, I got a 3-year vacant piece that if I don't work with this, could be vacant for a lot longer, and that's not good for the branding of the township. It's economic development to some extent. It has been used, Alan. I bought that in 1970.
I know you got it for a long time.
It's been used forever. I'm the only one that ever said anything, and that's why it came up. Not because Taco Bell now is asking us to do that. But it's simply going to be used for what it's been used for. It's just parking. They would have liability insurance to protect everybody. It's just a simple way of doing it compared to what Greg said was a nightmare trying to get it done any other way. So we thought this would be a simple win-win solution, like coaching it this.
No problem.
my recollection is from the prior discussion was that this road is not much used. At least part of the discussion at the last time was that's why we were willing to even give away the 24.
If I may, there's a 66 foot, which is a normal road. Beyond that's a 24 feet.
Right.
It goes back, and I tracked the records to an 1875 state road. But the state road is no longer there, of course. They changed it, so it was originally 100-some feet, but that's no longer.
Yeah, and then, or I don't know if I think you were the manager. We had some discussion about whether potentially in the future there would ever arise a situation where we would need that additional 24 feet. And I think we were told at that time that no, we don't foresee. That's why we agreed to transfer the ownership.
Yeah, outside of our normal 66 foot, we don't see a reason why we would do that.
I think that was the difference,
Right.
like, I get where you're coming from. It was the surprising factor that oh, all of a sudden we have this enormous,
Sure.
ownership that we didn't even realize we had because we normally have the 66.
As far as,
And that's why we had one-offed it, because I get where you're coming from, but this isn't the normal 66.5 foot, road thing, which is exactly what you were saying. What would the consideration be in that? I think that was what we had kind of
We-
spitballed on this was a really weird situation, probably that comes out of the 1800s.
Right.
And
Yeah, I trace it to 1875.
Yeah.
but there was state,
roads,
state
and
has a
state
bigger
roads
right
as
of way
well.
than we
The
do.
state
Right.
typically has 120 feet.
and when it was transferred and became Grand Traverse County Road Commission or County Road, it probably should have then
Right.
been changed like many of the other roads were, but for whatever reason
Yeah.
it wasn't.
All our roads have 66 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this was like a fluky thing, which is why I think, because where you're coming from, I hear you, but I think that was where we had kind of made an exception for this, so we weren't concerned that it was setting a precedent for other ownership, claims. I didn't know what the scope of a limited easement was. That's not in my knowledge, but now I hear from you, we don't have to worry about liability.
No, because that would be part of the easement agreement, and obviously Greg is gonna draw it, our attorney is gonna review it, but all easement agreements, the responsibility for maintenance of those easements is with the benefited estate. They maintain it, they assume liability for anything that happens within that thing, within that easement area, so.
We don't have an underground issue or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think there are any pipes or anything,
No,
or any utilities, I should say.
no.
Well, I will do anything I can to bring more Taco Bells to the area. I am an absolute Taco Bell expert and aficionado.
Is
So
it another Taco Bell or is it the existing?
it's another
All the
one.
restaurants are
And
gonna be tacos.
I don't
Just
live
remember-
on the east side, but I love that they would have one.
Yeah.
So I'm, I like
They,
that.
they had one in Calcasas at the end of 72, and they'd like to control both ends of
I
the spectrum, and that's their business.
Always
There
root
you
for
go.
tacos, although the Osorios might not like it very much, but other than that,
Yeah.
They have a
Taco House.
fabulous
Yeah,
menu
something,
there.
yeah.
Well, I think they're planning on putting a substantial investment into the property. And, I think it's important because a vacant piece of property for 3 years doesn't brand a township well. And I think Doug is, well aware of that. So they've been kind of excited that we're got something of value coming in there.
Yeah, I'd grab a taco and play
Yeah,
golf
I would
at the
absolutely
resort.
go
I mean,
to
that's.
Taco Bell. Yeah, 100%.
So any further discussion, any additional questions? If not, I believe we will need a motion on this issue to approve.
Can we make a motion and an appointment? Is that okay?
Well, are you there asking?
Yeah, yeah, we can do it anytime in the
Yeah,
meeting.
we- this is
Okay.
part of the agenda. So the motion essentially would be to grant a 24-foot easement with the restriction of no buildings within the easement area and subject to an easement agreement that provides for maintenance and liability
Upon approval of our attorney.
upon approval of attorney. So that would be the motion.
I can support that.
Are you making that motion?
I'll make it.
Okay.
I'll support
So motion by Commissioner Horn, support by Commissioner Gilman to approve the grant of a 24-foot easement on the west side of Huffman Road.
Yeah.
Pursuant to an easement agreement with assumption of all maintenance and liability and subject to approval by council. Good. All right. Any further discussion on that motion? Let's do a roll call on that one. Tyler.
Gilman,
it. Yes.
Horn.
Yeah.
Lehman,
No,
Underwood, absent and excused. Horn, or Chasm.
Yes. Motion passes, so let's get the document,
Right, I'll get that drafted and.
and you can send it to Dan.
Dan, okay.
All right, thank you. very much.
Thank you.
Next.
Okay, the next item is our consent calendar. Kylie?
The consent calendar is used to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together without discussion. Requests by any person present to remove any item from the consent calendar for full discussion as an agenda item are automatically respected. The action noted in parentheses for all items remaining on the consent calendar are approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. The manager recommends the following items be adopted. 1, minutes. 2, payroll. 3 accounts payable, 4 financial reports, and 5 communications.
Thank you. Do any commissioners wish to remove any item from the consent calendar? Do any member of the public wish to remove any item from the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Corn, support by Commissioner Gilman to approve the consent calendar as presented. Roll call, please.
Horn.
Yeah.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood, absent and excused. Gilman,
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes. Motion passes. Next item is reports, and this deals with commissioners to discuss any items from the staff reports, which is so on page 52. Anything? I just want to acknowledge and thank our road commission staff for stepping up and volunteering to help with the ice storm cleanup in our neighboring counties. I think when Dan called me and asked me if we can send some crews to help with cleaning up some trees on the highways. It was basically my response was absolutely. It's a no-brainer, because we would expect the same from our neighbors if we were in that position. So I believe they were working 12-hour shifts and, two crews.
We cruise 7 days a week.
And they volunteered. I mean, they all volunteered. So I really want to thank the staff and acknowledge them stepping up. So please extend our gratitude to our staff on our behalf. I don't have any items to discuss from the staff report, so we will move on to item E, which is commissioner updates regarding any meeting that they had within the last month. I'll start with Commissioner.
Well, I met with the Garfield people and Dan and Miss Elliott. We talked about Potter Road. I've also been to the Garfield meetings twice. And about it, because it's a local road, the fundraising problem. And Garfield wants to help, but Dan has a new plan, and I presented to the Garfield board the other day, and I was really pleased with it. I think it's going to get Garfield Road fixed, and we're going to hope that Garfield was really interested in committing to their half of it. But we're going to ask Garfield to do something else that's entirely within Garfield Township, not to split it with somebody else. Their money will go to something within their township, and Dan has a plan to use our millage money to fix Potter Road.
And that is a specific agenda item too. So we'll have further discussion on that in the meeting today. All right. Any other updates? Thank you. Gilman?
I kind of did the travel around the world routine for the meetings, my quarterlies. I opened up the laptop today, and the last time, of course, I opened it up was probably the last meeting that we had here, because I get the emails in, and it reminds me that I had the 3 meetings. I had the Whitewater, the updated Whitewater, the Union, and the Acme Township meetings, and all of them, of course, earlier in the month. So for those quarterlies, I guess I didn't attend those. One would think I should probably have those on a calendar somewhere else, but it is what it is. So I did not attend those. I imagine Dan went to those, and he can give us any updates as far as that goes. And I know we didn't have anything pressing with any of those guys, other than we're basically redoing the road in front of Union Township. That's
Yeah, no, great conversations, well received at all of them. I did it then.
That's it.
Commissioner Corn?
Good airport meeting. Lots of thankfulness for the 3 Mile Road project and Town Line. And that was the only one I went to, other than roads are looking good in Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand. I can report on those for the last
Oh, good.
few months.
Other than since the earthquake.
Not a lot of
Sure.
freeze thaw.
I was gonna say,
going on.
freeze thaws.
Yeah.
But good support from the airport and just interesting things going on with their expansion.
Right. Yeah, I did have the Long Lake Township meeting on my calendar, but I ended up having to go down to Detroit that day, so court, so it was unable to attend, but I know Dan, you attended the Long Lake.
Yeah, I also had some good conversations with that. I've also met with Supervisor Ron Lundpool a few times in person. We've had some good conversations about roads. That's first in that meeting, so really
Yeah.
looking forward to working with them. They have some.
Well, we're
great
doing a
ideas
lot
and
more
goals.
work with Long Lake than we ever did before, so.
Ron
Yeah.
cornered me at the airport meeting about that too and wanted to talk about it.
Yeah. All right, next item is commissioners' discussion. This came up, earlier on before the start of the meeting. We have a scheduled work session to talk about local road funding. Right now scheduled on Saturday, May 17th. Unfortunately, Commissioner Thorne is not available on that day, and Commissioner Lehman expressed, that maybe we should consider adjourning it to a different day. I just want to let everyone know that the reason I scheduled it for May 17th is because for the last 2 months, I had made a commitment that we would have this meeting in May. Because I wanted to get that done before the start of the summer. So I'm open if we want to reschedule it. I just know that in the summer, everyone's schedules get busier. So, and the other thing I wanted to bring up was I wanted it on a Saturday morning because I just felt that starting a work session at 6 p.m. on a weekday, it's probably not the most productive use of our time to talk about local road funding, considering that we always will crunch for time because by the time 9 o'clock turns around, everyone starts having a glazed look.
Right.
And they're exhausted. So that's why my proposal was to start on Saturday at 10. Everyone's fresh. And we have had Saturday meetings before. We had a strategy section as well. So I'll open it up for the board. If the board wants to change that meeting date, I know it's been noticed, but obviously we can cancel it. But we need to come up with an alternative date because I don't want it to keep getting, kind of lost in,
Is this just the board or is there like local like supervisors and?
We have invited,
Okay.
we have invited the stakeholders.
Okay.
So whoever chooses to attend.
So kind of like we did before
Yes.
years ago. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Well, it was 100% my fault that I did not see the email about this when I was gone. And so I did not respond timely enough to let you guys know that I had a previous commitment from a year ago for that day, but that was my fault. And if you guys want to keep it and I just am not part of it, I trust the discussion will be great anyway, especially if all the stakeholders are already there. So
And the other thing to consider also is that at least my plan is not to have just one session.
okay.
I mean,
Because it'll be the first work.
first, yeah,
work
because
session about this.
because I don't think we will be able to solve everything in one work session. Basically, the first purpose of the first session would be to get the data and the information from staff and their recommendations and options and start discussing them and digesting them and having a broader discussion with the townships, and the other stakeholders in the community as to what they would like to see. And then the way I'm envisioning it is that there'll be then subsequent study sessions to then build up upon that input and that discussion. So we have to start somewhere and then, move forward from there.
I'm flexible, whatever you guys want to do. I'm good. I can make it happen. Just nail it now.
I thought we should all be there, but if we can't, we just can't.
Sometimes, I think, I mean, most of the time we are able to be all.
I'm available any other day.
Yeah, So
Just
most of the
that day.
time we are there. May is a different, and again, coincidentally in May, one of Commissioner Underwood had a little bit of a conflict that he was not available for part of May. So that's why we just figured we'll put it, and then Memorial Day, I didn't want to bring it closer to Memorial Day either. So my suggestion would be to keep it at the 17th as the first session, invite all the township supervisors and other trustees and other stakeholders, start that discussion, and then we'll build up upon that, if that's.
Do you need me at that one?
We might need you from a funding standpoint, yes.
Because my daughter's regionals and state finals will be the 17th and the 24th. So those are really bad, and she's a senior.
I think having our numbers guy that was kind
I think at numbers, yeah, I think that's important because you probably will be able to offer advice on what can or cannot be. So it looks like that now with you also not available, it looks like the 17th is probably not going to be tenable. So, well, let's just do another doodle poll and okay. And
So you want it on a Saturday, that,
Could it be a Sunday or is that a not?
I try not to do it on
Okay.
Sunday. Yeah, I think let's just not do it on a Sunday. So let's get some dates out and please all of you. And that should go out to staff as well, because we need to have our key people there. So not just the commissioners, let's make sure our key people are also available. Okay, so we'll adjourn our May 17th meeting. And Kylie will send out another doodle poll to all the commissioners and key staff members. And then hopefully we can pick another date. All right. Any other discussion regarding any other matter?
Okay, health insurance / the Guardian Insurance has done it again like they did last year. They sent out a thing saying, well, we're not going to be paying your dental provider. And I know that, of course, that means that the employees here are getting the same messages. It's time we just put our foot down. If our insurance coordinator cannot handle it, we need to move to another one. We need to have reliable coverage for, I mean, for me, it's nothing. It's $1,000 a year they cover, whatever. But I mean, if we're going to have problems like this consistently, we can't deal with these companies. And we need to basically tell them why.
and you have to try to use them to find out how useless it is.
Yeah,
I don't know, I've dealt with dental and it's just as useless, so I'm not,
Maybe there was a
well,
better
maybe,
choice.
yeah, maybe there isn't, but
Have you or anyone received complaints from our employees regarding Guardian?
Yeah, I have, and I've personally experienced that. So when we went out for insurance this year, we talked to them in depth about that, and pretty much they looked at a couple different companies, and it's the same across the board. What we're being told is that they pretty much think they're trying to turn dental into a cash only business. And for most dentists, that it's really pretty hard to find a major company to do dental insurance. That's what our provider that went out to bid.
So these insurance companies are only provide dental insurance, what they're just going to pivot to something else? I'm not expect you to answer that
No,
rhetorical question.
It's the dentist office are pretty much trying to go to a cash only.
but see, in our case, they're gobsmacked. They're as dumbfounded as we are what's going on. They have no reason. They're billing the companies like they always did. And now they're being told that as of the end of this month, they're no longer able to bill. So it's not our providers. It's the insurance company. They can take a flying leap, pound sand as far as I'm concerned. We'll find somebody who actually will take it on. And if they won't, then we take that money and we give it to the employees and say, find your own provider or something. But
Were you involved at all in this when we were negotiating or doing our search for all, dental providers and medical care insurance providers? Were you involved in that process? I'm trying to figure out what
Just
made
last
you
time.
guys choose Guardian over, what was the data that you were reviewing that made you pick Guardian over another companies, for example?
Definitely.
We had a Guardian since I think around 2019, 2020.
yeah, it's big.
And we had problems with MetLife prior to that.
So was there any other companies that you looked at, insurance?
Advantage benefit groups, like our previous HR manager kind of headed that piece up with the new broker Advantage benefit groups. But we can definitely request them to go on. I know they did look at other plans.
Yeah, I want to say Delta Blue. I do remember, I had it.
And it was cost a factor, was it?
Cost was a fact.
Because clearly coverage, it couldn't be a factor because
Cost must be the ultimate factor because I mean, our dental providers, I mean, there are better insurers that actually work. I think she threw out one name, Lincoln,
does the county have something better?
Mutual of Omaha or something. I mean, there's a couple others that they named that said they've never had any problems with. Well, if they're saying there's never had a problem with, how much more does it cost to
Are you
go?
asking me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't use it.
Okay.
Thanks.
My insurance is with the city of Traverse City and it is Delta Dental and Priority Health. So I know that the city insurance is Delta Dental for all the city employees and us. Garfield Township was Delta Dental. Until I went off of that.
Okay,
Next year, something for the benefits team to.
Yeah, something to obviously people, if no one is accepting Guardian, it doesn't make much sense to have an insurance company that you can't use up here.
my next thing was, Fairfield South Airport, that light. How many times do you think that thing cycles through in a day? 100 times? 150 times?
I don't much. I don't even.
Well, the reason I ask is because, you know, to this day, I mean, I go through that intersection, I don't care which direction I'm coming from. And there's a 20-second gap where there's absolutely nothing going on in the intersection. 20 seconds, that's ridiculous. And so if we have 100 cycles a day, that's 200 minutes, that's 3 hours. 3 hours of nothing passing through that intersection, and people are, you know, there's lines of traffic going both ways. We need to have that fixed at some point.
I know it's been looked into several
It's terrible.
times. There might be something with the pad switch, might be something too, because I know you gotta go for pedestrians too. As far as I know, everybody's looked into that. That's the way it should run. But tonight we do have somebody presenting here, and maybe we can ask her to look into it for a whole new opinion.
Okay, so there's that. I mean, and that stuff drives me mad. Because I know that the people around me are like, come on, and then people get excited and do stupid things. The other thing, Cedar Run at Long Lake or front, and they kind of diverges. Is that our corner or is that, it is our corner? There are, trucks there that are doing service work in our right of way. And they are apparently just at the end of the shift, they're parking at the corner where people turn onto Cedar Run Road. And they're just leaving their trucks there all night. And they're putting the cones around it and just leaving it all there. And the traffic apparently has been backing up all the way to Division.
That was a while ago. I drive that.
My
every
dad,
day.
it was my dad, he drives that Long Lake Run, and it took him a half an hour to get from Division to Cedar Run Road,
What time of day was that?
about 3 o'clock.
Okay, because when I leave work, that's the route I take, and on Wednesday.
But he's my intrepid reporter for that particular side of town. And I realize we have a lot of extra traffic because of the other stuff going on. But is it practice just for them to, you know, the whistle blows and it's time to, you know, it's Miller time, so to speak. And they just leave the trucks in our, not just in our right of way, in our road and blocked as if, you know, they're broken down there or something.
Yeah, I didn't see any trucks to be, so I'm surprised that was. Cause I use that road every day.
Yeah, I thought you would.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I know that when they were doing the actual signal work, there were cones there, but that was because they were working on the new signal. But once the signals were up and running, there haven't been any trucks.
I'm just,
Yeah,
you know,
so
I'm taking them at his word.
Yeah,
you know.
I don't know. That's kind of surprising to me that happened.
Other than that, I don't have anything.
All right. Okay, so we will now move on to item G, which is the traffic signal presentation by Wade Trick. And just to give a quick background, at the last meeting, I talked about that we have been routinely contacted by community people, by county commissioners about why can't we have signals in certain intersections? And then when we have talked to engineers, we have been told, well, it doesn't meet the warrants. And as commissioners who are lay people, we want to have a better understanding as to what that means so that we can explain it more intelligently to others as to why or we can't have a signal at a certain intersection or when can we have a signal at a certain intersection. So that's why Wade Trick is here. So floor is yours. Please introduce yourself and.
Yeah, so I'm Bridget Pinkowski. I work for Wade Trim. I've been a traffic engineer for 14 years. And so I got asked here today to talk about traffic control at intersections. So what is a warrant? So our warrants are in the MUTCD, which is the Michigan Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. This is the national standard that we have to follow. There's a national standard, and then each state has the kind of their own version. So why do we have to follow this? One, it's the law as a traffic engineer, but also it provides consistent and safe mobility for everyone across the US. So when you go to Florida, or if you're in Iowa, a stop sign is going to look like a stop sign everywhere. It also protects you from liability. So in the MUTCD, there's guidelines that establish minimum thresholds below which a traffic signal should not be installed. So should is in red there because the MUTCD actually just got updated in 2024, and Michigan is in the process of updating their own Michigan manual, and that's one of the changes, is it changed from a shall to a should. So what this means is they are guidelines, they're not requirements. And I put two quotes straight from the MUTCD. Basically, if you satisfy a signal warrant, it doesn't automatically mean you should put in a signal. And a traffic signal should not be installed unless one or more of the factors are met. All of this includes engineering judgment. So an engineering study has to be performed to do these warrants. So here are the 9 warrants. Warrants 1 through 3 involve vehicle volumes. Warrants 4 through 5 involve pedestrians. Warrants 6, 8, and 9 are kind of wild card warrants. I'll discuss those later. And then warrant 7 is the crash experience. So when someone asks for a signal, we perform a signal warrant analysis. Here in Michigan, we use the Michigan MDOT has a spreadsheet. So if you notice the yellow and orange, that's a snip from the spreadsheet. This is where we fill in all the information about the intersection. So the speed limit, the number of lanes, what it looks like. We have different peak hour factors. We put in traffic volumes, we put in safety data. Traffic volumes should be recent. You need 12 hours, preferably 24 hours worth of traffic data from the previous 3 years. If there was construction in the roadway or something, you might want to get even more recent data. So what you do is you put all the information in, and then the spreadsheet does the kind of the technical portion of it. And on the other side with the little red boxes, you will have a summary of the warrants. If any of the information you put into the spreadsheet shows that one of the warrants is justified, it'll turn green. Now, the reason we really like to use this spreadsheet is nothing's in a black box. So you can go into the spreadsheet and look at all of the mathematical data. So you can, one, back check it, make sure you did it correctly, but also you can dive a little further than just to have something pop up and say yes or no. So warrants 1 through 3, so these were the vehicle volume warrants. These are the ones that are usually weighted more heavily. So the ones that usually justify a signal. For example, MDOT usually won't install a signal unless the 8-hour warrant is justified. So the first picture right there with the different color lines, the red line and the gray line, this is the 8-hour warrant. So for this one to be justified, there are minimum volumes you have to reach. So volumes are what's on the kind of the left-hand side there. And The major street, which is the street that has the most volume, those are the little red dots. You would need 8 of those hours to be above that red line. And then the minor street is the yellow dots. You would need those same 8 hours to be above the threshold for the green line. It doesn't have to be consecutive 8 hours, but they do have to be the same between the major and the minor street. So this is dependent on speed limit and what the minimum volumes are, speed limit and what type of population you have. And then the other picture is the 4-hour warrant, very similar to the 8-hour. It just involves 4 hours. Those little blue dots would have to be to the right of the black line. The peak hour vehicle volume, we usually don't use that unless you have like an industrial complex that has really high shifts that turn, or like a school, and that would be for the peak hour. Next one. All right, kind of the next important one is the crash experience. So this one has changed from the MUTCD that we use now to the updated one. So for the crash experience, the first question they ask is, have you tried anything else besides installing a signal? Have you tried different geometric changes and or increasing enforcement? And then you need 3 to 5 years of crash data. So what we do is create, this is called the collision diagram. So we read all the UD10s, we read all the crash reports, and we place them on a diagram. So we have a better idea of what's actually happening at the intersection. So we can see if it's a specific leg that's having an issue. So we read all the UD10s and then we pull out crashes correctable by signalization. So these are usually angle crashes or head on left turn crashes or sometimes pedestrian crashes. But we do read all the police reports and pull out the ones that we think could be corrected by signalization. So in order for this warrant to be justified, you usually need 5 crashes in 12 months that are correctable by a signalization. I will say this has changed in the new MUTCD. There's a lot more factors that can go into it. So if it's a 3-legged intersection, you only need 4 crashes in 12 months. There's also a new portion that involves 36 months of data. And also it's factoring in now type A, like serious injuries or fatal crashes. So it's a little bit different in the new manual. But having those crashes doesn't necessarily mean this warrant is justified. There's also a volume portion. So if you didn't meet the 8-hour volume warrant, they still want you to meet 80% of that volume. So you need both the crash experience as well as the volume in order for this to be met. All right, warrants 4 and 5, these are the pedestrian warrants. Now, these don't even get evaluated if you have a traffic signal or stop sign that is within 300 feet of your project location. So what this is saying is, if you're trying to justify a signal based on pedestrian counts, but the pedestrians can go 300 feet and cross somewhere else, then you don't even evaluate this. But it's the same idea where it's volumes. Those little blue dots, you can see we don't have any pedestrians here. The little blue dots have to be to the right of that black line in order for it to be justified. The warrant spreadsheet will also show whether a HAWK or an RFP is warranted as well. All right, wildcard warrants. So warrants 6, 8, and 9. In my 14 years, I've never justified a signal on any of these, but they're there, so we have to talk about them. The first one is the coordinated signal system. So this says if you have more than 1,000 feet between signals and you want to provide platooning of vehicles, so you want to keep vehicles together, you want to keep them grouped through some sort of roadway, then this warrant you might be able to use. There's the roadway network. So this one is saying you have to have a principal roadway or a major route through your location. And there's over 1,000 vehicles entering per hour for 5 hours on a weekend. Again, very, very wild card. And then the intersection near grade crossing. So this is if you have a railroad crossing within 140 feet of an intersection, it might be warranted for a signal. There's other information that goes into this one. There's like you have to have the number of trains and different information like that. So go ahead. All right, so there's all of those signal warrants, and then there's also the all-way stop warrant. So this is if you have an intersection that is 2-way stop and you were thinking that maybe it should be an all-way stop. It's also called multi-way or 4-way stop warrant. So these warrants are, this one also changed in the new MUTCD, which is why it's in red. So you have 5 or more crashes in a 12-month period correctable by an always stop. It's the same type of crashes as a signal. Or 6 or more in 36 months. That's kind of the new update. There is a minimum volume. So this one, you don't have to have both. If you just have the crashes, but you don't have the volume, it's still warranted, unlike the signal one. So this one, the minimum volume is for 8 hours. It's greater than 300 vehicles on the major street and greater than 200 heads, bikes, and vehicles on the minor street. And this can also be warranted based on sight distance. If there's something in the way of the intersection, a building or something, and people can't see oncoming traffic, this would be warranted. So why do we not install signals if they're not warranted? There can be some consequences of installing one. One is you increase delay for all traffic movements. You increase in traffic violations at the intersections, which is red light running, which turns into a safety factor. The big one is you increase the frequency of crashes. So it's been shown that if you install an unwarranted signal, you increase crashes 28%. That's all crash types. And it increases rear end crashes 222% of rear end crashes. So it's a very large increase. If you remove an unwarranted signal, it's been shown that crashes decrease 24%. So it also causes road users to increase alternative routes. So you have the potential where people might be on roadways that were designed to handle more traffic or in residential areas. And then again, you have the potential liability. If you did a traffic study and it shows that the signal is not warranted, but one was installed anyway, you could be liable for the crashes that occur at that intersection. So what can you do instead of installing a signal? Depends what the problem is, but you can improve sight distance. You can do this by removing vegetation, moving stop bars around, changing the location of the stop bar. You can install signs. So you can have advanced warning signs. You can install a warning beacon. That's what that picture is right there. You can install double stop signs, the signs on both of the sides of the roadway. You can convert it to an always stop if the always stop was warranted. Lower approach speeds. So this isn't lower the posted speed. This is lower the actual speed. So there's different ways that you can have traffic calming. You can reduce the width of the lanes using pavement markings to try to do it. Different lighting options, geometric treatments, those could be turn lanes. We have warrants for turn lanes too to see if those are needed. Also roundabouts, that's one of the geometric options, or you can increase enforcement. So that's my contact information for all things traffic, but I don't know if anyone has any questions.
I just wanted, did you guys do the study for the city for Madison and Front Street? Okay, I'm just curious because.
Doesn't sound like it because.
Huh?
I don't, yeah, I was gonna ask the same question.
Were you really? It's kind of, because we were talking about the four-way stops.
Yeah.
And they decided to continue it, which, I mean, if it was warranted, that makes sense. But I just didn't know that they did that, or if you guys did that study. That's fascinating stuff. Thank you.
Any other questions for Bridget?
I didn't see anything in there. I think it's probably some kind of like urban legend, but I thought you couldn't have traffic lights sometimes that were too close to each other. Is that real or is that not real? I didn't see anything in here about distance between lights and things like that.
No,
So you could have traffic lights close to each other.
if you need them, yeah.
Yeah. I always thought there was some rule, but then Copper Ridge kind of ended that rule for me because they put the light right, there's lights.
I'm not
there.
familiar
Yeah.
with that, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Where the junior high is, or what do they call it now? West Middle School. There's lights that, you can throw a softball to them. Okay, so there's nothing that has to do with geography like that. It
No.
had nothing to do with the warrants. Okay.
No,
I've
we
always
do
wondered.
model this, so there is traffic simulation software that we use. So you can model the signals together, see how they work.
Okay.
One of the things that one of your slides, when you were talking about alternatives, you're talking about, other than the installation of the stop signs, different approaches, lower approach speeds. I think there was a couple of other things. The impression I got was those all work if there was enforcement related to that. You can post signs for different speed limits, you can do different things. But if there's a shortage of manpower to enforce those, then they're not going to work. In that situation, does that get taken into account that we tried it, it's not working?
Yeah, it depends what the actual problem is or the perceived problem is at the intersection. Usually you have to do some sort of physical change to make people change. So like changing the lanes, you could put in bump outs. Do you guys know what bump outs are? Intersections for pedestrians to cross. Like that does physically narrow it. It makes people slow down because the lanes are narrow. So yes, if enforcement is an issue, you'd want to go more towards things that physically change the roadway.
Any questions? Thank you very much. This was very
Thank you.
interesting.
Excuse me, where do you work out of?
Wait, Trim?
No. What?
Oh, Taylor?
Okay, but you would come up here and or if we had specific cases, this isn't too far for you to.
No, I'm up
With
here
your
this weekend and we're actually doing the optimization study for the city of Traverse City. So we have that all modeled for them. So yeah.
I'm happy to hear that, driving through the city.
And I call her whenever I have a question. So just a procedural question. Let's just say we have an intersection and we are considering installing a traffic signal there. What's the process? We contact you and then you start doing these different traffic studies, crash studies, pedestrian. How long of a time frame does that involve?
For one intersection,
Sure, yeah.
it depends if we have to collect data or not. If you already have the like volume data, then it pretty quick turnaround. The data collection is usually what takes a little bit longer. And we do like to do field reviews of the intersections. So we get a handle on what's actually happening out there. That's where the engineering judgment comes in.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item is the 3 Mile Road crossing, and this is on 63, and this is regarding this is a discussion that we had a few meetings ago related to a pedestrian crossing on 3 Mile Road that would connect the west side, which is the Wood Creek subdivision, to the tar trail on the east side and the segment 1. So I think, Dan, are you presenting on this?
No, actually, we do have a representative here from East Bay, Claire's here. today.
Okay, Claire, yes.
Good evening. I'm also joined here by Tracy Bartlett, treasurer, and also on the township board, and Chris Cushman with Part this year to answer any technical questions. So thanks again for the opportunity to present in front of you. As you'll recall, we came before you back in January, and so this is a crossing, as was mentioned, that will connect the new Tart Trail parking lot trailhead to the Wood Creek residential community, as well as there's additional multifamily apartments, residential communities along South Airport that we see this crossing as a connection. So in January, we had Sheriff Shea here, we had Commissioner Nelson, we had the developer of Wood Creek, R.C. Herman, came and spoke in support of this, seeing the safety benefits that this crossing would provide. So our understanding was at the January meeting, the road commission had a few concerns. One was just the cost. So our team can fully 100% cover the cost of this crossing. The second one was the maintenance. And so we're looking at, the township will be maintaining the trail. So we would be also maintaining that crossing. And I talked with Beth about that earlier today. And then the third one was just kind of wanting kind of an outside evaluation of how this crossing would impact traffic flow, safety, those types of things. So included in your packet, there's a technical memo from OHM. And so OHM evaluated crash data, they looked at traffic counts, the surrounding land use and context, And you'll see, given the fact that this crossing is located a 1/4 mile from the intersection at South Airport and 3 Mile, the fact that it's a 45 mile per hour speed limit, and based on all of the traffic count, crash data that they had, they are recommending a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. That's based on, as you'll see in the memo, it's consistent with MDOT standards as well as the FHWA kind of guidelines. So they are recommending that this be installed in tandem with high visibility crosswalk marking. So it's basically the kind of canopy crosswalk that you see in MDOT and other roads. Adequate lighting. So it's something that we'll definitely be planning to partner and making sure that we can cover the cost of that, as well as crossing warning signs. So that would be signs basically alerting drivers on either end before you approach, before you get to the crosswalk, that that's coming up. A few other items based on the OH memo and kind of the best practices. They recommended future phase could look at a median island. I know that it just in my understanding, but snow plowing, those types of things, there could be concerns with that, but that was something that they recommended looking at as future phase. The other item that they recommended evaluating on future phase is pedestrian hybrid beacon. So that's different than what we're recommending for this crossing and to install at this time. The rapid flashing beacon, you push the button, it starts flashing. It's not a traffic control device.
The kind that's on Front Street on, by,
The kind that's on 8th, it's on 8th. There's one on 8th
Okay.
Street, kind of right by the Civic Center. That's a good example. When you're going down 8th Street, it's
yeah, there's
35
one by
miles an
that
hour
West
there.
Side Beverage Company, it flashes.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's to be differentiated by a pedestrian hybrid beacon. It's often also called a hawk signal, and those are along the parkway where you
Right.
push a button, it starts flashing red, and then it stops you.
Right, right.
So, so our hope would be that we could move forward in partnership with the road commission with this spring construction cycle to install the rapid flashing beacon at this location. No islands, nothing like that.
Okay.
Just putting in that crossing at this time.
If I recall correctly, the fact that there's a flashing beacon there or a light or anything doesn't require vehicles to stop. If that was part of our discussion. That is a concern because there are people who, when they see that as an option, they're gonna see the lines going across the road and they say it's a pedestrian crossing. Everybody on the parkway has to stop. They're gonna walk out into traffic and they're gonna put their hand up and it's, I've got the right of way, and then you see some dummy who's just like, I'm tired of these people. Yeah, and you know, there is a crossing a 1/4 mile away. It's not quite a 1/4 mile. It's maybe 1,000 feet. Honestly, I just don't think that we should be entertaining a crossing right there where there's pick up the high speed traffic, 45 or 55 or whatever it is. I think we're asking for trouble and we're asking for somebody to get hurt. I'll be a part of that.
Any other comments, questions?
I just need Claire to remind us, I know you explained it, but if you could refresh my memory. Obviously, we all wanted the crossing at the 3 Mile road light. Can you remind me what the facts were as to why we weren't, was it the cost of running the sidewalk from Wood Creek down on the one side, or was it that the thinking was people would just cross there
They're just gonna
anyways?
cross.
Is that what the?
Yeah, I think the desire is to eventually, so there's not a fully safe crossing intersection right now at South Airport. At South Airport, there's, one pedestrian signalized crossing. There's not trails on that. So I would say long-term, the township hopes to have a continuous trail,
Mhm.
non-motorized trail on the west
On the west
side
side,
of 3
yeah.
Mile all the way up. we hope to have a pathway, and we talked with the road commission about getting a pathway along South Airport. Again, that's kind of a long-term project with the road expansion that the road commission is doing. There's gonna be limited right-of-way along there, and so there's a lot of challenges for getting safe, non-motorized infrastructure along that corridor. It's something that we hope to have both of those eventually, to have a safe crossing down there as well as at this location, because we do anticipate people will be crossing at this location. There's no safe pathway along the west side right now. And just given the current utility poles and those types of things and limited right of way, I think it would be a challenge. And not to say that that's not something that we're also pursuing concurrently with this.
The proposed TAR trail extension project, that eventually it will go all the way up to Hammond
Yeah.
Road.
Yes.
So, and the goal is to connect it with the safe routes to school, and then there are there's GTA, there's the Elizabeth Seton. Are there any other?
Sharing all in
Cherry-
middle school.
So there are gonna be 4 schools,
Yeah.
parents, kids, that eventually would be using this crossing to go from east to west. And at that point, I think you were suggesting that at that point, the township will revisit this and install that other pedestrian hybrid type of a crossing.
I mean, it would be certainly with approval by the road commission, but it's something that OHM has recommended as a future consideration.
Do you have a time frame when that entire extension project would be completed?
The Safe Routes to School portion is going to be constructed in 2026.
Okay, so we're talking about a year.
Yeah, the 3 mile trail, that's the big ticket item. That's through a lot of wetlands.
Yeah.
But we are looking at 2027 for that. So phase 1 in 2025, phase 2 in 2027.
Okay, so within possibly 2 years, the use of this crossing could exponentially increase, correct? Does it make sense to put a crossing like that now? Knowing fully well that the amount of pedestrian traffic that would be using this crossing would increase, and by extension, the risk of pedestrian vehicle crashes would increase as well. Has that been given some thought as to the design and location of this crossing?
So your question is why now as opposed to in 2 years? Or-
Well, I mean, is this crossing taking into account that projected?
Yes,
That's
a great question. And this crossing was part of kind of a comprehensive plan that was put together we were originally working with Goslin Zubek that did kind of the whole visioning, did multiple public open houses looking at the 3 mile trail and kind of broader how the connections would be made. So there's this crossing, as well as you'll see on the map, there's an additional future, 2 additional crossing.
Okay.
That would be dependent on residential development in the future. So this first crossing is one of a couple that was taken into consideration as the build out of the trail system.
So it's one of additional 2 3 crosses, 3 in total.
Two on 3
Two,
mile.
yeah.
Two total on 3 mile.
No, 3.
3. That's what I heard.
There's 2 more once that next section of trail
Yeah.
is built.
And I would say that that's very dependent on future development. So as you may be aware, Bill Klaus owns a ton of property there. It's all zoned high density residential. So we could potentially be looking at similar to what you're seeing like along Lafreniere of just high density, a lot of housing units. And so that would be future kind of based on traffic analysis and that's right.
And on the west side of 3 mile near this area, are there sidewalks? Can that allow pedestrian to walk down, or do they walk on the side of the road?
There's nothing
Right now.
Okay,
There will be shoulders in a few months.
right, okay.
But yeah.
So
there's not-
we prefer, I think we've said we prefer the crossings to be at intersections where the traffics are slowed or stopped. That's what we prefer. If we authorize this crossing, I don't think we should tear up the road again. And I think the pedestrian island would be a way of narrowing the road and slowing the traffic to help. If we allow this, I would like to see the pedestrian island put in now so we don't tear up the road again.
Well, I think there might be an issue with that, and maybe Dan can answer this question. This project has already been bid out.
I know, but they're talking about adding the stuff and including different radiuses and entrances and stuff anyways.
No, so they're only asking for the installation of the
lights.
the light and the signs and markings. They're not asking for anything else.
And making sure that the curb cuts are there for us.
Right, but once we get into widening of the roads or narrowing of the roads and adding left turn lanes, that would most likely increase the cost of the project. And you know, and I not knowing that beforehand as to how much that, and isn't it a fed project? So it's not, yeah. So I'm not in favor of doing that.
We bid it locally.
Out of curiosity,
We bid.
We bid it locally. It's not running through that.
It's not-
Most of the cost is coming from us, but there is federal funds involved in this.
Right, and my point is, it's a FED project, it's been bid out, construction is supposed to start this summer, and not knowing what additional, how much this could cost in excess of what is already there for the contract price, I can't support that.
is the general population in the manufactured housing complex that right across here, is it older or is it younger? Is it multifamily? I mean, is it family? What?
It's more older, but there's
Older.
a lot of people,
Well,
workforce and.
Right, okay, so there are some workforce, but I mean, ideally, I think when you're talking about safe routes to school or this or that, you've got Amy and George. You're gonna have families along there, you're gonna have some families down the road and the apartment complexes that are on the South Bradbrook side, for example. And frankly, walking through the complex wouldn't be any better than walking down to the intersection, in my view. I mean, assuming that
If there's a facility.
if there's a facility, a sidewalk facility for that, yeah. I'm just not, I'm not sold that this is a great idea. I just.
Okay, well, I think this, my concerns at the last meeting was who's gonna cover for this? You have answered my questions. I'm satisfied with your answers. I'm satisfied with your ask. To me, it makes sense if we are going to work on 3 Mile Road, we might as well do it now, install the crossing, and rather than having to do it at a later time. The township has agreed to cover all the costs of all the installation, lighting, markings, signs. All they're asking is to, I guess, include it as part of the scope of a project, right? That's the ask here. So, and they did what we asked them to do. They went out and hired a third-party consultant who did a study and made the recommendation.
There is some references in there that because the crossing doesn't exist, there aren't counts to really.
Sure.
They would prefer to decide whether the crossings were, whether it was warranted, if there was a crossing there for them to measure. To give us results, rather than guess. They guessed, well, there's so many people here and there's maybe 20 times something would go in.
Well, they're projections, and I think that probably, I don't know.
Do you want to comment on that, Joe, or anything about the methods they use to suggest that this was okay?
It's kind of like what they did is when you're looking at subdivisions and you're doing a traffic impact study, and you're going to assume that you have 200 houses and you're going to get 6 vehicle trips per day per house. But you don't really know, but it's a good way to kind of get a baseline for if you need to reevaluate something. So you need an additional third, like center turn lane, right turn flare. What do you need? Are you going to create enough traffic that you need to start looking at a traffic signal at an intersection that's adjacent to it? So when I read it, they assume there's so many houses, there's a new trail going in, it goes someplace. There's going to be people.
You think their assumptions were okay?
I have to read it again, but it, for the location of a crossing, of that type, like, I'm not always a fan of center mid-block crossings, but there are a lot of times where they are warranted and used, and because people aren't going to cross there, even if you don't put the marks on the road.
And that gets back to the light thing. And if you know you're gonna get run over and you run out in the middle of the road, you're gonna be a little more cautious. If you think that you got the protection of a light that has no real legal protection for you, it doesn't protect you so much, I don't think.
The way that I've seen these operate, and granted, the one on 8th Street, that's 35 miles an hour, it's different than 45, but it's really, you push the button, it flashes, you wait till the vehicle stops and you go.
And does
And I think.
the city have an ordinance though?
Does the city have an ordinance? They do.
Yeah, so,
Yeah. But the state, I believe, is there. I believe there's
Yeah,
a state.
and there is one that is in Grand Traverse County. It's on J Man Parkway, where the school crossing is.
In Interlochen.
In Interlochen, yes.
But I recall asking the question, I don't know who answered it, I think it was the sheriff. So that, well, technically they don't have to stop.
That's true.
What is that? Yeah, and that's the problem.
Well, and ultimately that's true for any crosswalk.
For anything, right? Any
Except
crosswalk.
for when you have a hawk signal installed. So when you come up to you stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk. You don't stop when someone's standing there. So if someone has time to get across the road, you need to stop for them. But if you're
Don't
standing,
hit somebody who's walking in
yeah,
front of you.
technically, if you're standing on the sidewalk waiting to cross, traffic doesn't need to stop to let you cross.
Although prudent drivers stop because you don't know when the person is gonna
Yes,
come in
yes.
front of you.
And this brings us back to why somebody got hit on the Parkway here a couple of years ago, is because somebody did stop and somebody who didn't expect to stop went around and then hit the person who was crossing in front. I mean, you know,
And that's
this is why I always bring it back to the signalized crossings are the only way.
yeah, when you can put a protective phase in for the pedestrians to cross, that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is changing kind of the expectations in the community, and as more of these go in, I think you'll see driver behavior and comfort.
Well, I like it,
aspects.
and I'll tell you why. Because people are gonna cross there anyways. But I do think Jason was right. I think most people coming from an area other than Wood Creek are probably gonna cross at the light. I just think most people are. I don't think anybody that doesn't have a reason to cross through Wood Creek right now is gonna be like, I'm gonna cut through there. I don't think it's gonna be a high volume right now. It's just a short phase one of the trail. And when the second phase is done, there will be additional crossings. But I do understand the concern. The concern is if we don't put something there, or if we do, is it an attractive nuisance bringing people to cross where maybe, and I understand that thinking. Probably the only thing I like more than Taco Bell's is trails. I walk a lot. I use our trails a lot. I deal with almost getting hit by cars a lot. And I understand the concern for that. I think we have to hope that when the bigger picture comes together, that this is an important part that set a precedent and people already are changing the community thinking there. But I do understand the concern for it as well. I think it's hard because phase one is such a small portion. You're not really wrapping your head around the scope of the safe route to, the school trail that's coming in. So that's kind of part of the, it's a hard part thing. I also understand the funding component and as to why it looks like that. So I think I do want to support this, but I also am not going to act as if there isn't a concern in my head for anybody crossing a 45-mile-an-hour road in an area that we're not used to having people crossing in. But I also think that the amount of people crossing through Wood Creek is probably not going to be a lot. And if it is, I certainly hope that the people from East Bay Township and TARP would be on top of that if they're concerned about a safety issue and would immediately reach out to the road commission. So I hope you know that regardless of the opinion, and we all have different opinions, every single one of us want everybody to safely cross the road. So if this decision, if we make it tonight or don't make it tonight, I hope the communication continues on it. But I have worked with these I can't say the word, RRFD. And I use them all the time because I walk a lot downtown and I haven't been hit yet for the most part, they seem to work okay. But I am concerned about the 45-mile-an-hour road with them. I am.
Yeah, I think the traffic speed is definite, the ability of people to stop. And you're right, it's over time, people will get used to it. Hopefully. The other question I do have, and I think Commissioner Korn brought it up, is that I am questioning. I mean, I know that OHM made their projections, but I am questioning that we are talking, how long of a segment is this phase one that you are?
The first,
Yeah.
section, that's like a quarter mile.
Right.
Very short, yeah.
I just am questioning as to whether there really is that kind, it's going to generate that kind of a pedestrian traffic to justify installing that crosswalk now, and that subdivision has been there for a number of years, and so just by adding a quarter-mile extension to an existing tar trail, does that in and of itself justify installing a crosswalk?
I'm knowing the route. I own the property that's first quarter mile is gonna be on actually at one point. Knowing the route, there's a lot of good reason. And you're gonna be looking at putting a parking lot in there too, right? A small parking lot, with like 10 cars or something, or 10 or 20 cars,
I think it's 20.
20 cars. I mean, it is it's a magical place in there. I don't care what anybody says, the woods, it's kind of untouched. It's really, really pretty in there. And that alone will bring people into that first section. I know that. But fortunately, there's gonna be parking there too.
Right.
Which is gonna be pretty nice. And frankly, even the run across the old golf course, and other areas, I mean, it could potentially lend itself to, photography and whatnot, through there. I know what's back there.
It's gonna be a great drive.
It'll be a great, but it's definitely if we build it, they will eventually come kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the hope was for the timing, why now, is just because of the upcoming.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I do want to hear from Dan, our road manager, as to what your opinion is on this. We are talking, but you are the one.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Somebody on the board's got your back, one way or the other.
So, I agree with a lot of what we're saying here. I think it's important, for safety, but I would prefer to see them cross at a light.
Yeah.
Instead of putting another light that close, mostly from safety. Now, Claire, I see it looks like your future plan is a sidewalk all the way to Hammond, the South Airport.
Yeah, so it would be a trail, likely like a 10-foot wide, non-motorized trail along the west side.
I just wonder if that trail's all the way there, that encourages people to get used to using, the lights. It's not a city setting. People aren't expecting people to come out there. It's my big.
Yeah, that's the thing.
If we were more of a city, we were 25 miles an hour, maybe even 35, I'd feel more comfortable with it. 45, I'm very nervous. And that people halt if they're.
I will say, just to kind of related to people crossing there, we just recently approved 200, and Dan probably knows because he reviewed the plan set, but we just township approved residential development Crimson for 240 new units right across from Mitchell Creek. But
On the Clark property there.
yeah, so that's 240 new units. Part of what the developer, the community is banking on is really giving them access over to.
And
the
given the
Land
proximity to
Conservancy.
school and everything,
Yeah.
you're gonna probably be
So I
asking to
think,
put a crossing
I
up
think if
there
we don't
anyway.
put a crossing here, we're definitely gonna have demand in the future for future crossings there, because I think you're seeing just from a land use perspective and what East Bay for years has identified that as high density residential and next to that 240 units, I talked with another developer that's wants to put like 500 units
Sure.
in, so.
Is that right next to Wood Creek, the 240 units?
No, it's right next to Meadowlands, so it's like
Okay, I know this area.
basically this property.
Ah,
right
okay,
here, so
gotcha.
They're banking on that,
Okay.
actually.
We're at a road
like
there,
right
too.
here.
And there are two projected crossings
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
And
so
at
you
that
have,
point-
you have a crossing at the parking lot, a crossing at the other parking lot, which is the preserve building,
At that
and then a
point-
crossing at the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to get Wade Trimmer to do a study at that intersection there.
If, when, if those developments come through, would that trigger a reevaluation of the speed limit?
I think it would.
Because now there's a lot of density along that road, right?
The turn
Big
lane is going
pedestrian
in
count
here,
for the-
right?
That,
There's a turn lane
That's
going in the three
The
miles
MSP, I don't know.
to the Metro One, right?
I think they take into account entering and traffic on the roads. Well, any questions for Claire?
Did they ask for an approval to, like, what is our specific ask?
I think they're asking
They're
because they
asking
were
for
here in
approval.
January. We
Right,
asked
and
them
you
to-
answered my two questions.
Yeah, they
the
answered my
reliability
questions.
maintenance.
They came up with this OHM study because we wanted like a third party evaluation. So at this point, they're saying, well, we have done what you have asked us in January, so they're asking
Okay.
for an approval for this crossing to be made part of the 3 mile
Yeah.
construction project essentially.
Yeah, and we would coordinate with staff on the.
So that's what they're asking. But if there are no other questions for Claire, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And then I guess we can deliberate as to what we want to proceed.
Anything you wanted to add, Jim?
Now it's his turn. Hot seat.
I didn't really have a lot of time to digest the study. I knew they were gonna do it. So, the only thing is, they're not generally recommended for speeds over 40. But it doesn't mean, as we said, there shoulds and shalls.
Okay. Well, would the board feel more comfortable if our engineer had a chance to do a detailed review of the OHM study and come up with his recommendations, Joe? Is that what you would prefer?
I read their recommendations and conclusions, and it's based off the assumption that there are gonna be people crossing there right now. So it's really, they're concerned about pedestrian safety, like everybody is.
Right.
So the installation of it at this point in time is a preventative measure ahead of time, assuming that there's gonna be enough pedestrian crossing traffic to warrant it. So really, like, digging into the study and like if there's numbers or anything like that, I don't have comment for that right now because it would just be my assumption versus theirs, and I don't think I need to argue with OHM on that. They're good engineers who have sound judgment.
Right. The data is the data.
Yeah.
You're gonna review the same data that they did.
Yeah,
You may draw different conclusions.
yeah, but at this point in time, I don't know if I would like argue with them too much on it. I mean, it was their recommendation.
All right.
they have to take into account the pace for the study too. That's, it's like find us a way.
One thing I think we have to consider is we do like. As a road commission, we're listening to the townships. And although I would prefer this really be at the intersection, if East Bay really, really, really is hung up on this going there. I think we should take that into I think that I would rather facilitate if this crossing was nearer South Airport Road. That's really where we want it. And we would encourage them, people to cross there, and there was a crossing there, maybe they would just use it. I could probably come up with a study that says that if I wanted to. But if East Bay really wants it here and we can't find a way, we don't see anything nothing is coming up that says we shouldn't do it. I guess I would have to vote for it if we actually have a vote.
My position is this board asked East Bay to do certain things.
Yeah.
They checked all those boxes. The ball is back in our court now, and we can critique that study, but we have heard from an engineer, and he said right here that he's not going to argue with their conclusions or recommendations. So we have to make that decision now.
Are we gonna just acquiesce to all of these along there then? Because if we're gonna do one, we're probably gonna have to do them all,
Not
right?
necessarily.
Oh.
Okay, so
We'll cross that.
our
bridge.
engineer also said that, well, normally these don't get put in
Sure.
areas with speed limits over 40. There's a reason for that, I'm sure. Looking to the future, okay, there's two things. They're gonna have a parking lot on the east side of the road. That's a place of demarcation. Somebody needs to cross from the parking lot to be on that trail. So the trail is certainly accessible by parking. As far as the people walking from wherever,
I think it's just the Wood Creek people.
Yeah, because there was a.
it would just be the Wood Creek people.
I really think
Would,
it
would
is.
that, would, and again.
For now.
Would
Yeah,
that
for
put
now.
traffic, would that put traffic justify it? I think the logical thing to me is at some point, since there is the planned development of 250 units on the west side of 3 Mile, basically at the corner of Vanderlip. We are likely going to wind up with a situation where they're gonna have a light there. I mean, that's a lot of traffic in and out of, onto 3 Mile right there, even though Vanderlip right now doesn't support it, but there isn't that much development in Vanderlip. So that would be a logical location. The other logical location then would be at South Airport. And I just don't see this as being absolutely necessary at this point. Yes, it'd be nice to be able to utilize the existing curb cuts. They can put curb cuts in. And maybe that's what we do, but we don't put a light in until there's actually some kind of demonstrated need for it.
So Claire, to follow up on Commissioner Gilman's questions, if like you pointed out, if the future development is on near the area where the other two crossings are projected to go, why not just wait for those developments to happen and those two crossings to get built rather than build this one right now? Because it looks like most of the development, most of the foot traffic is going to be generated. We are projecting once those two developments will go in on that piece of property.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing right now is just a tremendous amount of population along South Airport that doesn't have a connection. The Brookside Apartments, the owner of that development, has said anecdotally that he estimates there's like 100 workers that are biking from Brookside to US 31 corridor to work in the hotel. So again, they're not necessarily, but I do think that there's a tremendous amount of people that don't necessarily have two vehicle households that are relying on bikes and other modes of transportation that are going to be using that.
But wouldn't those people be able to use the crossing of the traffic light though?
If we were able to get that, to make the improvements, to make that safe. It's not safe right now. And so I think what
They're going to cut through the Wood Creek.
our perspective is that this is a lower cost way of making a safe connection at this time when we're putting in the trail system. We're definitely continuing to work with the road commission. We're putting in actually grant funding to do a grant application to do the design engineering for a trail along South Airport. And that's an application that we're going to be putting in later this month. But again, we've got the right of way challenge just because the plans for South Airport is adding an additional turn lane. And so then you're bumping up against the pavement all the way to the edge of the right of way. And then you're getting easements from, 30, 40 private property owners that the trail would significantly impact their front yard. So at this time, we're seeing some big challenges with getting a safe access along South Airport.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, we can talk about this at great length, but we have other agenda items. So I am going to make a motion to approve the installation of the 3 Mile road crossing and include it into the 3 Mile road construction project.
I will support that.
Okay, so we have a motion from myself, support by Commissioner Corn to approve the 3 Mile Road crossing and include it into the 3 Mile Road construction project. Any further discussion before we vote? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Corn.
Yep.
Lehman.
Lehman says, I prefer it at South Airport Road, but because the township wants it there, I'll vote yes.
Underwood, absent and excused. Gilman,
No.
Kevin.
Yes. Motion passes 3-1. Okay. Thank you, Claire
Okay, thank you very much.
and Tracy. Next item is the Old Kingsley Facility Purchase Agreement Addendum, and Dan is going to explain why I need this.
Sure, and actually, I think the purchaser is here tonight, and they'd like to speak.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know.
Okay.
Sure, absolutely. They've been sitting here listening to all
They didn't know we were gonna grind them up.
the- Now they know. Now they know what kind of what's coming.
So Matt Douglas, Pepsi Building Solutions Williams LLC. In process of purchasing the property for you guys. Through that, we started phase work, we found that there's significant contamination there. And this restricted covenant was in place. That we should have been notified of that prior to the purchase. Or in the listing, I guess. I don't think it was anything malicious, it was just turnover. This thing came into play in 2018, has probably been forgotten about. Because of that, there's restrictions on what we can do with the property, as far as being able to build or add on to the existing building. Restricted covenants, probably approximately half the property. The water well is inside of that area. It wasn't originally, it was signed off, my understanding, by about 8 government officials that the well was not inside of that area. I've taken a drink from the drinking fountain and it tastes like diesel fuel. Right. I was there when they did the boring. There's about a foot of oil and gas floating on top of the water table there underneath that entire building. Which the water table's at 8 feet, that water well's at 35 feet. So we're requesting a reduction in the purchase price due to this contamination, the restricted covenant, what we can do with it, and then the appraisal that you guys got. I'm sure that appraiser was not aware of this restricted covenant. I think that would have some effect on the value.
What was our agreed upon price?
$615.
Right. Why is our realtor not here?
He had previous commitments tonight. He did apologize for not being able to be here.
Okay.
I guess I need some information. The restrictive covenant we're referring to.
Yeah. Please, I had the
If you
same
could fill me
question
in
too.
on that, I don't think I know about that.
So as a restricted covenant, there was originally buried tank that was diesel fuel that had been leaking for years. My understanding is that was removed in the 80s, maybe. But I mean, that was pretty significant too. That was all in front of the building. I was there when they drilled that hole. And I was 30 yards away, and this is a 3-inch hole in the asphalt. And I mean, the petroleum smell was extremely strong.
This was a tank that was used by the road commission when the road commission owned this property, or was this something that was in there from previous to the road commission?
My understanding is there was nothing there prior to the road commission buying the property in
That's what I thought.
46.
Yeah, it's good.
So the road commission had
I've heard rumors that it was originally a fuel depot. And I believe the state owned that building one time.
like, did the road commission have its own fuel source on the property and use it to like fuel up their trucks or something?
We still do.
They do.
We have tanks. We have.
Well, above ground tanks, I'm talking about a below ground tank. Is that possible?
Everybody had below ground.
They did.
Yeah,
Okay.
that probably was.
Okay.
So you still want to buy this
crappy place for
Oh, we like being in Kingsley and, that's the biggest.
Great
building.
location.
So you said restrictive covenants, were they like recorded somewhere?
Yeah.
It's recorded with the state, yes.
So when our realtor, but how could that not be
Yeah.
available to our appraiser?
There's a couple of things too, and we recognize this when we were discussing this before, that we likely have. Whether or not there's a tank there, we were not aware of that, but we likely have contaminated water.
I believe the appraiser was aware of that.
And so that was definitely considered into the package, the sale package. The other thing was that you're very close to the water supply that Kingsley can provide. And frankly, they should be running out beyond you at some point.
He did speak to, the village water and sewer guy. He said it's not really feasible. I don't know, I don't understand all this. He says it dead ends 2 blocks back.
Yeah, it's not very far.
But they won't run a dead end line, so it'd have to circulate, or I don't know, I don't understand exactly.
They want to make a pay for a loop or
Well,
something.
bottom line is the
Right,
village is
I
not
understand
willing
that.
to extend. I guess there are two different things. We all expected that there could possibly be contamination, but just because we were using it for 50 years or so. And back then they weren't as careful as to where the diesel went and whatnot. But it's a completely different thing that we had a recorded restrictive covenant. And that was not discovered by our side because they found it. Why didn't our people find it? I have a question about that.
And that was filed in 2018. It wasn't.
Yeah.
That's not even old.
No. So,
Well, I would like to make a motion that we accept the addendum.
okay.
I'll support that.
Motion by Commissioner Lehman, support by Commissioner Gilman to accept the addendum for the Kingsley. For the old Kingsley facility. Okay, that's the motion. Any further discussion?
I guess some question.
Jordan, go ahead.
On the addendum, so I understand, the reduction in price because you're gonna incur some costs that have to do with your water. But do we know that that's the extent of it right now? I mean, could you be coming back in 3 months and saying, hey, we went to do this and then we put a hole in the asphalt and, we found that, like, where does it end? I just want to understand, have we already explored the property so that you guys can do what your idea
So,
is?
yeah, we've got about $30,000 tied up into this environmental stuff.
Right.
They're doing this baseline, there's a PA.
Yeah, two
This is
different
Jen Warren,
reports.
our realtor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hi. They are doing 2 more reports, which we'll get to Dan and the
Okay.
other realtor as soon as those come back. But yeah,
Should we wait till we have a bigger picture of any?
so you were provided, well, Dan, through the realtor, it was my understanding, was provided phase 1 and phase 2
Okay.
documentation of all of the findings, where it's at.
Dan, did you get this from ours?
I did.
Okay, so he provided this.
Yeah, I think,
Now, it's real important.
yeah, I spoke with Dan and our realtor is recommended
Okay,
that
then
we
I'm
accept that.
I have my reasons. It's just a matter of he's not here.
Right.
He can't speak to this, but if he provided this, then he has spoken to
Right,
this.
and he's recommended.
So you've read phase 1 and phase 2,
Yes.
and you feel that this that you have proposed would make you whole in what you want to do with the property versus, okay.
Yeah.
That's really,
They need to get a good well.
that's all I
They
needed
need
to
to find
hear
a
then.
different location, get a
Yeah.
good well. That's.
Well, I will support the motion.
Yeah.
I,
We already.
yeah, I think we
Okay.
will. Just, what does it mean, pumping of tanks and lines?
That's already been taken care of.
Okay, but what was that? Like? pumping of tanks?
We had a
There
back
was-
truck come in and take care of all the drains. There's an.
Oh, okay.
Cleaned everything out.
All right,
We did that already. We've already incurred the.
sure, okay, all right. All right, if there are no other further questions, let's do a roll call.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood, absent and excused. Gilman,
Yes.
Corn,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks. Thank you. And good luck with the property.
Thank you.
You don't want to stay? We've got some other good stuff.
Thank you. You have popcorn?
You know, that isn't a bad idea. You guys, I'm going to the corner some days, you know.
Next item is the safety program submittals discussion, and that's Dan, you.
Sure, Carl, I have Joe here tonight as well. This is where we usually submit every year. I believe last year we did like Cedar Run and Gray Road. And we were able to get that for doing a study. And they're actually starting that in May. So that'll actually help us come up with what's going on there and our recommendation for it. I know we did a couple other ones last year. The other one that we did was the dog bone roundabout at Great Road there, Moomers, and we would like to recommend that one again this year. That's the only one that we were gonna come forward and recommend this year.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
And that's really, we wanted that to go last year. We didn't.
right.
Is there any reason to think that our submittal is going to be better this year? And have we changed the submitted law, thinking it's going to have a better chance of it?
Joe will prepare.
That might be the difference.
I'm just saying.
Would it be different? The competitiveness of it is going to depend on how it scores compared to other safety projects. So
Statewide.
So
We feel a real need for it, so we want to.
yeah,
Do we incur more points because we applied for it last year?
not really.
Was it? Okay. But there's something where if you apply for multiple years that you get help.
Okay, so that will be the only project that we'll be submitting this year. Okay.
So can I ask about Cedar Run and Gray? Just if you could help refresh my memory. I know that we had it in last year and it came back that it didn't meet some of those thresholds.
No, that for this portion that we put in last year, asking for the
Road
to
safety.
have it
Right.
studied, that got approved, and they're doing that
Cedar Run and Gray did get approved?
in May to do the study.
Okay,
That's
I
only
was
a-
thinking it
only a
did.
study to look at it. It's not.
Right, no, I know it's just a study. Okay, for some reason I thought it did not get the safety grant. So
You
it
want-
did get it and that's gonna happen this year. Great, thank you.
Sorry. Do you want me to describe the process, Dan, with what it is?
If the road wants to.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
So a road safety audit is MDOT, you put in to get a safety grant to do a road safety audit. It's a road that you've identified that has concerns. And MDOT administers it and pays a consultant to come in who's third party and look at it with a fresh set of eyes. They have some interviews with us. We sit down and talk about our concerns, what we see, driver behaviors, and then they go out, they look at it at night, do a review to see what it looks like at night, then they go out and look at it during the day, they sit and watch traffic patterns and come together. There's three different people who do this, and they compile their notes and come back with recommendations on how to improve the safety of that particular intersection, hill, stretch of road, things like that. So what that does is when a road safety audit comes back with a recommendation for a fix, when you go to apply for a safety grant, it's a lot easier to apply, and an MDOT consultant has given you the fix.
Okay.
Right.
Awesome.
And they could they possibly come back and say, don't do anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Cedar Run and Gray is gonna be studied this year, right?
Yes.
Wasn't the concern, I'm starting to remember the discussion, weren't we concerned about the fact that the M72 roundabout was going on and so much traffic was rerouted through Cedar Run and Gray? I thought we had a discussion about that in the timing of the study.
No, that came up, the whole detour issue came up much later, remember? When they.
Oh, I remember
Yeah,
that part.
No,
yeah.
but it was not on our
So we're
radar.
still okay with having that study done?
Yeah,
this year? We're all good with that? Okay. I
That
just want to
study
make
was,
sure we're moving forward on that intersection.
that study was, we submitted that study just because of the complaints.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted
Yeah.
to make sure we were following.
Yeah, that's
through on it.
happening.
Okay, so they're gonna be studying that and that's happening here. Okay, I just want to make sure.
They'll be here. They're gonna do the night portion Sunday night and then Monday.
A few more.
Oh, like now?
Great.
Okay,
Yeah, so it'll,
Crashes.
And when do we get a report on that, do you think?
they give preliminary findings 2 weeks after they do it, and then they finalize it.
So we should have something in by June, July,
I don't know if we have a final, but I can report on the,
preliminary.
yeah, you can report on the preliminary.
Okay,
what they
that's
found.
great. Thank you. Okay, we are finally to the project that Nicole is here for.
oh, sorry about that.
Potter Road project. No one wanted to put their name in front of it, apparently. So I'm just gonna call Dan.
Do you wanna
Mine is
do a
on here.
vote?
Oh, you did
Yeah.
that, okay.
Yeah, Dan.
Do you need to do a vote just to approve going forward with this roundabout, Peanut?
Yes,
Do we
thank
have
you.
to do that now?
For what?
Cause it's gotta be submitted by the end of the
Do
month.
they need a
Oh.
resolution to go with it?
I don't believe there's a resolution with those.
In the past, we have, last year, I don't remember,
For the safety audit.
for the board, because it does go through.
Well,
Make a resolution or.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the submission of the dog bone roundabout for Straight Road and North Long Lake Road for the state safety program submittal.
Support.
Okay, any,
We all want to do it.
there's going to be no,
Yeah.
there's going to be no
Yeah.
further discussion, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
All right, Potter Road project.
All right, I will apologize, this is gonna be like a 4-part story on this one, so.
Well, yeah.
Should we take a break before? Does
I do
anyone
have
need to
to
take
go-
a break?
I do have to
Okay,
go
let's
to the
take a
bathroom.
5-minute break
Okay,
before we
thank
start
you.
a 4-part story. Oh,
But it's.
Yeah.
One minute. When you're on a full. Not.
Oh, yeah.
grand. I wish Chris would have stayed, so we could talk about sidewalks or a bike trail along South Airport. If Garfield has 300 extra grand,
I think this.
instead of having green painted poles, let's think about pedestrian safety on South Airport. You know where the old Pier 1 Imports is? There's a pet store there.
Yeah,
So it's a new tenant.
it was
the
prior
pet-
to the special use permit
Okay,
requirement of the
yeah,
sidewalk.
so they make them put in the sidewalk, but the sidewalks go to nowhere. If
Because
Garfield has all this money, help, people are trying to get along the airport.
I know.
It's dangerous.
All right. Okay. That's very passionate. But let's just call the meeting back to order.
She agrees with you.
And we are going to start with the Potter Road project, and Dan is going to start.
I agree with them, if I'm messy. Thank you.
All right, so I think we're all aware, we've talked about what happened there on Potter Road. You know, across all we saw there, that road, a far faster than we've seen any road in like county come apart before. So what were we gonna do about it? I know we talked about some options. And, you know, one was, you know, take it back to gravel, some different things there, but we can only do 50% with MTF funding. So we're looking to our townships to find a match. We had some meetings. It didn't look that was necessarily gonna be a viable option. So I started looking at some different things that were going on. And we've actually, some of our projects that have changed scope a little bit and prices are coming in. A big one would be Town Line Road. You know, originally we were looking at that, it would be about $400,000 once we stepped down to the different one. We worked on that some more. We got that down to about $200,000. Other projects have come down as well. And we found that we've had some leftover millage funds. And the thought would be to use millage funds to repair that road. Now Garfield was willing to come and match with their funds with that, but you know, without both sides matching, we didn't know if that was necessarily fair. We found these funds, we're thinking that's a good idea, but what's interesting, this is where the 4-part story starts to come in. Barney Road, working with Long Lake right now, and they want to use their matching funds on their side of Barney Road. So we started talking with Garfield, hey, instead of putting this money into Potter Road that you're thinking you're doing, what if you did your side of Barney Road, right? And we actually did that. So of course, both boards still have to vote on it, but we're having really good conversations about it. What we're thinking is that if we use those millage funds on Potter Road, and both of them match up with us on Barney Road, and we're not going to completely redo Barney Road. There's some really bad sections that we need to repave. We're going to do some wedging. We think if we came through the following year and did a chip seal, that we might be able to make a 10-year road out of Barney Road.
Is Potter going to be crush and shape?
And that's what I'm talking about. That's gonna be a full thing. In order to get the price down there a little bit, usually, you know, Safe Streets is a 5-foot shoulder. We look at 3-foot shoulder, we get a bunch of bore testing. We don't have to do a bunch of underground work, but it would be like a full crush and shape project. And we came in at $311 on that.
From 500.
But not bidding it, just
This is
putting in the unit price.
This is an engineer's estimate of, we came in at roughly $311
With a 3-foot shoulder.
with a 3-foot shoulder. And what I'm asking the board tonight is, would it be all right if we went out to bid for that project using millage funds?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the only reason we made that decision last meeting was because that was the only option given to us at that time. And I'm kind of like, you know, that's what happens when we make a decision, like when we feel rushed into making a decision because we are given one option, there's no other option, you have to do it. Well, otherwise people are going to lose their axles or tires or whatever. So we made that decision. So I'm glad that you were able to go get back there and have that discussion.
Potter, Garfield one side, Blair on the other. Okay, and so that's why it's a share. So this really kind of takes care of 3 townships like that. I like that.
Was the issue, and I'm not putting you on
Yeah,
the
I mean,
spot at all, but I
yeah.
don't know, did Blair not have their share to put towards this? Like, just so I understand.
We couldn't put our share towards it because it's a local road, not a primary road.
Okay,
And our share comes from your MTF funding, I believe.
No,
that's not.
Barney is not a primary road.
no, we're talking about Potter.
But I
No,
think,
I know, but Nicole is saying that she could only put the match on a primary road and
no,
you can put it on local.
Well, when I say our share, you're talking about partnership
Right,
project.
right.
I don't have a road budget in
Right.
my
Yeah,
budget.
Yeah, that's different.
okay,
I was referring to my share as the $46,000, I suppose. if we have it.
That's what I'm asking
And
about.
that,
Where is
people
that
don't
money?
We
understand
can't
that.
use
Yeah,
that.
we're
can't
gonna-
use that.
Okay, that's
we're gonna
that's
be
the part I
reworking
need
that
to
so
know.
it can get understood.
That was meant, I explained it to the Garfield
You
board, and I
can
think
keep
they,
it.
they got it the other night.
Take that 46,000 back and
That,
put it back.
that's for our share of a project. When we have money set aside, it's for our share, not the township share. And that has not been correctly conveyed to the townships. I talked to Garfield about it, but needs to be part of our comprehensive.
Right, it
plan.
doesn't make sense. It's our money. We set it aside, but we tell to the township, well, it's your share. Well, not really. It's our money that we set
They gave
aside.
us, I can show you guys what was given to us. This was before Dan, this was before some of you, but we were actually given a document that had each one of the townships and our portion of money that was our
You're
share
right,
from
yeah.
the road commission.
It was
So
improperly
yes, we were.
Yeah,
Yes, we were.
It's screw,
And
yeah.
that came from the road commission. That didn't come from the township.
No,
That
no,
came
I
from
know.
the
right,
road
you're,
commission.
But the money that is whatever, your share, whatever that was.
Matching funds that we.
In any event,
Matching funds
Does
we-
Blair currently have anything in that tank?
They do.
Okay,
Okay.
that's what I.
in
wanted.
any event, we have two major projects that people have been asking about, and we've got a solution for it going forward.
So are you gonna make a motion?
Do we need to make a motion?
Yes, we have to approve, we have to grant him approval.
Well, because he's gonna bring a bid back to us, and we're gonna approve it then.
Approve the bid. It came apart so fast and we were thinking of some options, like we gotta do something quick, so we were.
Other than,
And we had, this kind of came.
yeah, now
so
we have to get bids back then for Barney and Potter then?
It would just be Potter at this time. Both townships for Barney are still in discussions, but it's really.
Okay, so that'll come to us when it's that time. But in general, you're getting from this board, at least four or five of us. It's go ahead, get those bids, bring it back to us for approval. Yeah.
Based on the scope.
Based on the scope that you just
explained.
explained. And by the way, how did we get Town Line down to 200,000?
Yeah, actually working with Joe.
That's
coming up with
amazing.
Some ideas and we think that's
Well,
a better idea.
No, but so this just opens the door down the road for some different things, depending on how this turns out, of course.
Yeah.
I think that's why it frees up some money.
This is a big deal for me,
Yeah.
the Town Line fix. I'm blown away, so.
Well, it's huge because we had 4 roads we keep talking about. Town Line, Potter, Barney, and Frankie. And this is 3 of them. And
Yeah.
I just want to thank you because I'm sure that
big
you had to put a lot of brain power and thinking into this and deal with a lot of different boards and elected officials and employees and everything. And I know that.
And we'll see. Kit will keep saying that they don't need a brand new Taj Mahal
No, we
road.
don't.
They just want something passable. And that's what we're building. We're not building these. They won't be as, drivable, rideable surface. It'll be passable. It'll be nice. It won't
Just
be
throwing this
full.
out there for Barney, because I may forget to ask at another time, can we put weight limits on Barney?
We hadn't discussed that yet, but.
I'm just-
We did discuss that on Town Line.
Town Line Road,
Yeah.
East Bay and Garfield, I both asked them to do letters of support.
Okay.
To go.
We
towards
did
that.
discuss on Barney quite a while ago because of the trucks for the concrete.
The concrete company using that as their backbone
Yeah.
to the Illinois.
We did discuss it.
I mean, they do have a great option, to just keep going down grade.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody uses it as a spur, they don't have to necessarily go down that road.
Right.
Okay, well, good. You have a direction, so let's just, that's great.
That's exciting.
Next item is the wedging bit. That's on page 76. And Dan, the memo is there. If you have any questions for Dan,
Somebody make a motion to accept this.
I will.
you haven't made a motion yet. You haven't made a motion yet today. No, you have
I
not.
don't
You
think so.
made a motion to approve the agenda.
It's your turn, Alan.
Whatever.
I make a motion to accept the bid of our manager and engineer technician to accept award these bids as proposed
For the HMA wedging
for
program.
the HMA wedging.
All right. Is there support for that?
I'll support it.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Lehman, support by Commissioner Korn to approve the award for the HMA wedging program to Elmer's, Crane, and Dozer in the total amount of $606,419. Roll call vote, please.
There's a second part to that.
Not to this one, there isn't.
Oh,
Don't want to.
I think it's a separate
Okay.
memo, isn't
It
it?
is separate.
it's a separate, sorry, it just was a different.
Yeah.
Underwood, absent and excused. Gilman,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes. Okay, so the next one is the as needed wedging and I just have a question on this. So the explanation that we received from Elmer's was that they couldn't provide a bid because the scope of the work is unclear. So my question is, then how was our engineer able to provide an estimate first if the scope of work is unclear for $150,000? And then how was Molon able to submit a bid for $80,000 if the scope of work?
Sure. So what we're going off of is just like a per unit price of, we don't know where in the county we're gonna do it. We don't know where it's gonna go. That's where our estimate comes from. So, and I totally understand where Elmer's is coming from. Is it at the end of the peninsula? Is it right here in town? Is it way out in Fight Lake? Their fuel, they didn't wanna, if they threw a number at it, they're gonna throw such a large number at it, they didn't feel comfortable with it. They'd
Okay.
rather price it per just.
Sometimes the jobs. There's been jobs in Grand Traverse County where very little quantity was used and a lot of time was taken up. And that's exactly what the paving companies don't want.
Okay. All right. I mean, I just was wondering that our engineer was able to estimate it and another company was able to bid it, but
Are you gonna compare their,
We like to do like we do with when we prove the gravels, we'll do each project that comes up. We don't have anything planned. This is just at the end of the year. Sometimes we have projects coming under, there's a little bit of money there. It would be nice to be able to throw a couple last minute fall projects.
so
in.
how do you want this worded? We need to accept this or approve it.
yes, it would be the way
Preference.
approve awarding as needed wedging in the amount of not to exceed $80,000 to both Elmer's and Molon.
Whatever's in the best interest of the road commission.
Yeah.
That's my motion.
That's your motion. Okay. Is there a support for that motion, which I will repeat once we have.
I'll support it.
Okay. So support by Commissioner Lehman, motion by Commissioner Lehman, support by Commissioner Gilman to award the as needed wedging to both Elmer's and Molon in an amount not to exceed $80,000 to be performed in the best interest of the road commission. Is that okay? Roll call, please.
Gilman,
Yes.
Horn,
No.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood, absent and excused, and Kevin.
Yes. Motion passes 3-1. Okay, next item is the traffic data collection award. That is on page 81. And that is, you want to explain what we're doing here, Dan?
Yeah, sure. So I think this is the next step of our asset management plan. You know, every year we have interns come in for the summer and we try to get some car counts on roads, but we're never gonna get to all the roads. We can't get a full picture of it. We have Transmap information now where we have all the roads rated. We've done internal rating of Phaser ratings. We don't know some of these data, car counts are 10, 15 years old, or we don't even have any information on it. So my thought is to come in, do all the roads in one shot. So we have all the road data and then we can start to look at it. And I think we're going to be surprised on some roads, how high they are. Potter Road's a perfect example. I didn't think that much traffic was going on that. Once we started digging into it more, it's more times like 3,000 cars going down that day. I think once we fix it, it'll be even higher. Once we do this, I think we can get a full plan together. And I would like to see us put a following bid out after this with all of our Transmap, Phaser data, the road and the car counts data together. And have somebody put a 5-year plan together for us on our roads. So I think this is just kind of the missing piece.
And oftentimes, when issues come up from citizens or anyone, that's one of the first questions we ask is how many cars are on that road, and a lot of times we don't have that data. So this will help us.
Are we outsourcing this because we don't have the ability to do this now?
We would never be able to have the ability to do all these roads.
Okay.
And,
There are about 200 roads.
So I think it was more than that. So what we're looking at is that they're gonna be able to do all the roads in a 3-month period of time. And if we approve this tonight, they said they'll have it done by the end of August for us.
Yeah, there's no way our
You know, my only question is, I think this is a great plan, and I think you said we don't have time to supervise the interns, we're not gonna have interns.
Right.
How does this fit with our budget?
So I was planning that usually we bring the interns in and we'd only be able to do a few roads a year, use that towards this cost. And, so do you remember that number? I'm sorry.
I don't have that in front of me, but we had carryover fund balance too, that we were under last year, so. I plan on bringing a budget amendment to the board in May, after we get all of these other moving parts. The dust is starting to settle with, bid costs and projects added here and there. So I would incorporate that into the budget.
Okay. So my request is gonna be tonight, if we could at least approve the first portion of all the roads with no data for the 63,800. I think it would be nice to do the one where, if a road's over 2 miles long, Hammond Road would be a perfect example versus what's here versus on the other side of 4 miles, it's gonna be a different car count. That would be nice to have it happen. Not necessarily, we could come back, maybe do that next year. If we want to do it all in one time, that'd be great. But if we could at least do this first portion, I think that'd be.
I think all of it in one time makes sense. We are right away.
I mean, yeah, are they bidding this to us based on their mobilization and one-time mobilization, or, I mean?
I had them do this separately, so.
So what would the time frame? Would they do it like all contiguously? Like they'll just do the first one and
So-
right after that they'll go get into the
Once they
second
start,
part?
they actually do it with cameras now. They don't do the old tubes or anything like that. They actually put cameras on. They have a large number of it. They're gonna send a team up. They'll set up those cars or those cameras to do the car counts for 2 days. And then they'll move them and they'll just be all over the county.
It's cool stuff.
I used to do that.
You have a beginning and an end line, and basically if it crosses it this way or this way, you can tell.
I was telling Dan that in college, that was my summer job, was laying down those tubes and programming the counters on New Jersey interstate highways.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, and it would be, we would start in the morning.
Some of these.
We would start in the morning for rush hour traffic, and the language I learned from, New York and New Jersey angry drivers at 9 o'clock in the morning. We used to go out with the traffic crew. They used to block the lanes, and we would have a tape ready, and we would do and they were like, some of the highways were like 4 lanes, and you would lay down the 2 tubes, and then you're in the big tall means I got tips all the time because I would come home and check because you were in those weeds programming the counters.
Was this for public sector or private sector?
I worked for my uncle's engineering firm, and he
Okay,
had a
so
company,
private sector,
yeah.
okay.
But he had contracts with the.
So he hated you, is what you're saying.
He paid me really well, but it wasn't, and we would do the manual counts at intersections every single time, like 10-hour counts every single
So
time.
it's
We
a
got
little
the
more
cops called
modern
on us
is what.
because there are like 2 guys sitting there with so.
Ira will do it for half the price.
Yeah, but so now they use cameras to do all that, so they did great. Do we have a motion?
If somebody does, Alice won't.
Okay.
Al's gonna make a motion.
Okay, go ahead. Who's gonna make a motion?
I said Al. No,
No.
I'll make a motion
Al.
to approve what is the right wording that we're gonna use?
Traffic counts.
Traffic count.
Traffic count,
Yeah.
The collection.
for a total cost of $99,200 to QC quality count.
Yes.
Support.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Corn, supported by Commissioner Lehman, to approve the award for traffic car counts to quality counts in the amount of $99,200. Roll call, please.
Horn,
Yes.
Neiman,
Yes.
Underwood, absent and excused. Gilman,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes. Okay, motion approved. Next item is the Act 51 resolution on page 82.
I can just make that motion. We have a difference of 0 miles. So I will make a motion to approve resolution 2025-04-04, the amendment to the Act 51 road mileage for 2024.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion before I state that motion, I have a question. Why do we need an amendment if there's no change in the miles?
Yearly. I believe you have to sign it yearly.
Yeah.
Even if there's no change?
We have to remind that.
All right, there's a motion by Commissioner Corn, supported by Commissioner Gilman to approve the resolution 2025-0404, amendment to Act 51 road mileage for 2024. Roll call, please.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood, absent and excused. Gilman,
Yes.
Corn,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes, motion, resolution adopted. Next item is 5 Lake Road Project Office Technician Services.
Sure, so that's a FedAid job there, and there's a lot of paperwork that goes along with that. As us being short-staffed, we think that'd be best to sub that out for that dollar amount. We're recommending Wade Trim as a little bidder. We did have 5 people pre-qualified, and we did have 3 of them actually provide bids. We reached out to all 5, asking them to put in bids, so, and Wade Trim was the lowest.
I have a question about that. Wade Trim estimated a total of 72 hours. The other company were HRC 135, Prime New Hub 180. Why is there such a huge gap between the estimated number of hours?
Joe might be able to help with that more than.
Well, that's why I was wondering if you, I mean,
Well, our office tech's been around a lot. She does 35 of these a year. So I reached out to her, gave her the MDOT proposal for the project and asked her how many hours it would take and the schedule of the contractor, and those came right from our office tech, and compared it to 2 other projects I recently did with her, and they lined up. So
you guys are not gonna come back later on and say like, oops, we missed this, and so now we have to.
I don't intend on doing.
Okay, good. Because I just, that,
It's a simple project. There's not a lot of items. As long as inspection reports come in and they're clean and don't have a ton of edits, and she's chasing stuff down, and it's not a lot of hours.
all right, well, good. I just wanted to make that clear because I'm looking at these hours and there's a huge gap.
I used to do it before, and working with her, it's like, I don't even want to touch that program anymore. Because it's so much
Really
oriented.
familiar with it. It goes really good.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's how we came up with our number.
All right, sounds good.
We need a motion. That's under Dan's spending limit. Can't you just do it?
Well, I don't know, he's asking the board to.
Do you
But
want?
we did get bids for it.
Yeah, let's just
Okay.
get this.
Motion to approve the Wade Trim bid for
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Lehman, support by Commissioner Gilman to approve Wade Trim for the 5 Lake Road Project Office Technician Services in the amount of $8,741.52. Seeing no further discussion, roll call, please.
Underwood, absent and excused. Gilman,
Yes.
Corn,
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes, motion passes. Town Line Road Project.
Sure. So what we're doing here, I talked a little bit about that we're changing the scope of work on Town Line a little bit. What we did earlier when we approved the wedging bid is we approved to wedge Town Line Road as one of the projects. We want to do a chip seal over it. So all we're asking is to make an amendment to our chip seal and have that additional of they're holding the same prices that we we're doing to bid. And do that, and that's where how we were able to bring that from a $400,000 project down to about $184,000.
Since the mobilization is done already, they can hold.
They said they're close to the yard where they're storing the chips, they can just add it on, not a problem.
Okay,
That's awesome.
sounds good. Easy.
Okay, so. Yeah, I would move that we approve the contract modification. In the amount of 53, to the 25 E200 chip seal program. The amount of $53,110.20 for the Town Line Road project.
Okay, so support?
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Gilman, support by Commissioner Lehman to approve a contract modification to the 25 E200 chip seal program contract in the amount of $53,110.20 for the Town Line Road project. Hearing no further discussion, roll call.
Gilman,
Yes.
Corn,
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Underwood, absent and excused. Kevin.
Yes. Motion passes. Next item is the High Ridge removal bucket purchase, but it has no amounts and nothing is in the packet yet.
Sure, we were very hopeful we could add a blue sheet. We've been working on this for about 2 months. I still want to leave it there just so I can kind of tell you what's coming. This is actually something that our shop group found. And when we do high ridge, we have to stop at a certain point in time. There's just too much vegetation, and there's certain areas we'll get into that our machine can't handle. They found this bucket that's actually designed to do this, and it's pretty impressive, actually. They do not make one in the United States. We cannot find anyone stateside. They make them over in Europe and use them quite a bit. And we tried to find contacts and emails. We couldn't do it. So we decided, why can't we build our own? And we worked with a few local welding places, and they said they would get us a price and everything. And it was supposed to be here 2 weeks ago. As of today, we're still talking to them. They did not give us a price. So it's something we're really interested in doing. We're hoping to get it approved so we can use it yet this season. So we're not sure it's gonna be. The hope would be maybe it comes underneath my spending allowance, but I didn't know where it was at.
It's just like a 3-point hitch or something you put in the back of a tractor. I mean, what?
It goes on the front of a loader.
Front of the loader.
And it's 8 foot by 8 foot, and it goes through there and it scoops it up, and it actually has a cylinder on it, and it brings that material up and throws it in there, and you keep going along until you get that full, and you dump it in the back of a dump truck. So it's really impressive.
What does it cut the vegetation off? I mean, it kind of shaves
You
it.
set it up to the degree of angle that you want, and then it's welded on like that, the bucket, and we go right
Okay,
down
pretty
the
cool.
side of the road. So I was hoping they were gonna prove it. There's a video from overseas. I wanted to show that to everybody.
You don't have anybody who can weld?
This is a
Too
major
complicated.
project.
Yeah.
We can do some welding, but we're looking for a big project here in our shop.
It's some heavy.
Could probably do it,
steel.
but it would be, it'd task somebody that would take them away from.
It's pretty cool.
Work. Hopefully that'll be in May. Unfortunately, being in May, by the time it gets built, we probably won't see much use this year, but.
But that'd be really cool because when it's done, you're talking, it really levels it out too. No, I mean, it just.
Yeah, we
Like
essentially.
you say, set the angle. And so your drainage is all good.
That's our goal.
That is so cool.
So we can hopefully continue. I think high ridge is so important to get that water off that road surface. We get stopped, end of May, the vegetation's so thick, we call it that Lee boy. There's that belt that actually brings the material up, it clogs it up.
So how far out can this take it theoretically?
As far as
I mean, so how far out can we cut into the vegetation?
potentially, we're doing an 8 foot bucket. If there was not such a degree that it was unsafe for the piece of equipment.
Right.
Which is a bunch further than we're even doing currently. So,
Great. Awesome. All right, well, might as well just go into your manager's comment, or were those your comments?
no,
Oh, okay.
that's my wish list right there.
Oh,
That
okay.
ridge bucket, but, nothing too huge. Obviously, we're glad frost laws are off. We're out running full steam. Our shop did a great job. All of our equipment was ready to go for summer. They had the semi trucks, the tractors, all of our trailers. We were ready to go. So as soon as those frost laws came off, we went out. And our crews are really hitting it hard with that high ridging right now. So we're out doing that. Really excited about that. What we're doing right now is we're going after those projects. And I'm really excited about this HMA that we approved today. Because what we're doing right now with those high ridging crews, they're getting out in front of that. And then we're doing the high ridge on that. Then we're gonna come through with HMA and we're gonna go through and chip seal that. And I'm really hoping that we save some roads with this and potentially, instead of getting that $1 million a mile, maybe we fix some roads for a much lower amount that lasts 10 years. Super excited about that. We've got the township annual every year. We meet with them and talk to them. That is next Thursday. So if anybody wants to attend, Long Lake offered up their brand new township hall. So we're gonna have it out there. Eagles is catering. So
Nice.
everybody can attend.
Great.
Yep, and other than that, I have attended several township meetings recently, but then we also had the MPO yesterday, so I did attend that. Had some interesting conversations. I still struggle a little bit with the MPO. I know it's something we need to be a part of, but it's not necessarily what, I think we all thought it was going to be. Something that we probably need to look to in the future is the MPO is not going to go out and look for grants or opportunities for us. So we heard before that once we become this MPO, there's gonna be so much more funding. No, what I'm being told is that opens the doors. We need to go through the door and find our own. So it's something we might need to look into. I know we've talked about this before, finding a grant writer or something like that. I think this is another reason why we should probably start to look into that.
But being part of the MPO, that makes it, that counts in favor of us when we apply for grants, or does it? It's a factor, right?
All it does, it might open some up.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything.
But
yet.
other than that, are you not seeing any other advantages other than the grant?
We got to see the table to vote. We used to get $330,000 a year. Now we get $1 million every.
Right,
3
and that's what
years.
I thought there were
So
other
dollar
issues.
to dollar, we're
rather
really
than-
not coming ahead, and we have to vote to spend those funds.
So when we have a grant writer, are we looking for somebody who has the experience to look for specific things, or are we somebody who we give the information to and then they turn around, they essentially put the package together for us?
I think we need to find somebody that can put something together for us. We don't even know what's out there.
Okay, so I mean, really, so an experienced grant writer, what would be looking for somebody who actually knows which rocks to look under for, okay.
Definitely. And not a full-time employee, somebody that we can.
Sure.
With to do.
I think that's the appropriate way to do it too.
The question really is how quickly or easily can we find such a person up here to come work? That's the,
Networks Northwest, right, start there.
what's that?
It's a Networks Northwest, I mean.
Well,
That was allegedly the concept.
yeah,
I know.
I mean, and I thought that one company, what was it, WSP or what, weren't they researching grants, but we were only using them for the bridge project, but
We did have them apply for a few. We tried to get the one for South Airport, get the culverts out of there,
yeah.
and we got denied and turned down.
So-
I think we need somebody that specializes in that.
I thought they were specialized
With
on
remote
that.
work. Well, we can put this out, and if they put a bid in, that'd be great.
I mean, that was why they were brought in by OHM as part of that bridge project, was because they were
Well-
the people to look for grants and help with.
If we knew which grants and we had the data, I mean, there are ways to put these packages together very quickly with the help of AI does stuff like that now. And just so you know, I mean,
I'm
but
just
we gotta
saying,
know where to look.
yeah, I'm just saying, we have struggled in the last couple of years filling positions for whatever reason. HR, engineering, whatever. And it doesn't, and I don't know how quickly we will be able to find a qualified grant writer that, and not just an amateur, so. And I always thought that the WSP was the one.
Is there like the
That's
other
helping
road
us.
commissions use? Is there, I don't know, somebody that, how there's like lawyers that specialize in really weird stuff? Like you'll find a lawyer that just does tennis court cases or something, right? Are there grant writers that just specialize in transportation and do other road commission contract with
I
them?
was also gonna try to reach out to some road commissions that are already an existing MPO and see
Yeah.
if they have anything.
The County Road Association, I mean, I'm sure that somebody,
I think there's people that specialize in them for housing. I know that.
Yeah.
So I feel like transportation would be important for that.
Yeah,
And a big enough industry.
That's what I mean, like it, anyone can read a notebook, anyone can read that, but you're looking for the expertise to put the package
And
together.
unfortunately, we're
Yeah.
probably looking at a time where it sounds like a lot of grant programs are being cut, so.
Yes,
It's gonna be,
That's
it's gonna be
possible,
a
too.
difficult task. It's just something I know we've talked about in the past. And now that I know the MPO is not going to help us in any
Right.
way of doing that.
Even though they were supposed to.
It's definitely time.
Oh, imagine that.
The thing is that will be an independent contractor thing, just like the WSP was. We have been talking about bringing someone in-house and doing it, and I don't know how that's gonna work. I mean, you're gonna find someone that is willing to move up here and be an employee of the road
Someone
commission.
should try something.
So, but we have talked about it, and let's bring up this MPO discussion in one of our meetings. I'd like to, I mean, we put a sunset clause in there when we first decided to join it, so maybe it's time to revisit that issue.
I'm glad you went, and I want to thank you, because I'm sure while you were there, you thought of other things you could be doing. But having a seat at the table is important, because that MPO was happening whether we were a part of it or not. And like you said, we may not have gotten ahead dollar-wise when you look at the dollars, but we have a vote. And the concern was, what if the only people sitting around the table didn't have the best intentions for the county road
Right.
That was my concern.
Yeah,
Right?
I think that was what we wanted to
Which
wait
was a
and see.
reasonable concern.
On the other hand, if we didn't join it, is it really truly legitimate and all that? So,
Well, we wanted to see how it would turn out. We wanted to at least be a part of it and see now we have been part of it for 2 years. So it's an appropriate time to have a discussion as to whether a continued participation is necessary or not. We've now had a chance to be at that table and see how it impacts us and doesn't impact us.
Oh, I had one last
Yeah, go ahead.
thing I just wanted to mention to you. Scott, I know everybody had a chance to meet him last time. He's our new GS, but he had a chance to update our citizen reporter. And it's really great. He's just gonna show us real quick. It's a little more user friendly.
Actually, I'm gonna go from our website here, just so everyone knows where to go to get to it. First, you can hit this report of concern. We also have a link down here at this request service.
Oh, look at that good looking group in their yellow vest. I love that.
So this is a splash screen, pretty basic. Click here to enter the map. Now, mostly this is a cosmetic upgrade. However, there is one mechanical upgrade that I'd like to go over. The main thing is that all of these icons are have a symbol based on the status. So green is closed, red is new, and then as that goes through receive to dispatch, add changes. We'll just go through and add one of these. Go to report problem down here. We'll use a road issue for an example.
Are we getting stuff reported that's within the city limits of Traverse City, or is that all just?
no, it's outside.
It is, yeah.
We definitely get some service requests outside the boundaries of the county.
I heard we get phone calls, emails, and actually
Now-
a handwritten letter today.
Does, you say the green reflects the
Of the
closed
city.
cases. Do those eventually
They
disappear?
disappear after a week.
A week, okay, all right. Because other than you're very cluttered.
Yeah. So once you hit that report an issue, you can type an address in here, or you can use your current location. Also, your cursor will get a little point over it, and you can drop that around on the map. Just drop that there. The mechanical upgrade is that this type of problem is now a required field. Previously, it wasn't, and I was having issues with CityWorks, which is our work order and service request system. They would be stuck in limbo if that wasn't filled out.
Okay, so this is available on our site.
On our site, publicly available.
Okay.
Anyone can go here.
Do we have a way to quickly turn it into an app?
It is an app.
You can,
Oh,
you can visit this on your phone or tablet.
Okay, all right, good. I'm gonna have to do that. Google what?
Are you saying like a Google app or something?
Yeah,
This is more just like click on the button on our website.
okay, that's what I was
You
asking.
can put it on your phone and you can do a tablet phone.
That's fine, yeah, I just wanted to know what, okay, so it's not an app, like an Android app or anything, or an iPhone app, it's an app though, but access from our site, okay.
Yeah, open it up in your browser. So type problem, there's asphalt break in there. You can put an issue title, a description and details of the problem, closest street address, city, state, zip, your personal information if you want to. It's not required. The phone number, we will call you if we need more information. Email address, there's automatic emails that are sent out from CityWorks based on the status of the service request that you submitted. So you can kind of stay up to date on that.
People will like that.
So you have to work on that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Very nice.
We do want to add one when it's closed, and have a survey that goes out so people can then say, oh, hey, how did we do actually on that? Did it get resolved?
Larry, it only took us 6 years. We got it.
And then they can come down here and add a photo. It really helps when they do. So I've added that. A little note here that people diagnose the issue before we actually send someone out, so they have the right tools before they leave the shop.
Very cool.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's basically it. I check it out, get some issues.
I'd probably go right down the street from my house and start sending
Right out
some
my front
dates.
door.
Oh, yeah.
You're right, Larry, tomorrow's gonna be busy.
I got picked up.
How many times can you submit a report for the same pothole? Is there a limit?
No, we don't let you do it infinitely.
Okay.
But it's stacks,
Might be here.
20 of them for me.
but I mean, it stacks it in an area, so you could see, you know, like 2 or 3 or 4 reports in that immediate vicinity.
Yeah, so like we can go down on Potter Road.
Yeah, right.
here And
There,
see how
oh, gee, there's a
many,
couple there.
yeah.
It's like lay down.
Christmas trees, right?
Well, good, I'm glad people are using it though, that's good.
We would prefer that you don't put it on the same pothole, but
Well, you know, can people go in when they like in that scenario? Can they go when they log into this reporter? Can they see like, okay, a complaint has already been a problem has
Yeah,
already
so
been
these
reported
are
for the
already
same pothole,
submitted
so I don't have to
complaints.
do it again.
yeah,
Okay.
so these are all submitted complaints
Yeah.
currently.
Because that
Good deal.
might be- people might.
You can even go in and like it or
You can
comment
like
on
it,
that,
like
say,
if you
hey.
go and somebody already wrote a thing about your pothole, you can hit like on it. and then-
Facebook.
Yeah, like,
That's a
but
re-have to
it's
make-
like more people being
But
like.
then it's
that-
just
that-
answered once.
Yeah, and
Then you don't
also-
have to re-answer everyone, yeah.
We've enabled comments also
Okay.
on the service request, so someone can go and say, hey, I agree with this, and also put a photo of the pothole or something. We don't know if that's actually gonna be used, but it's an option.
Very nice.
You might not want to hear the comment.
You might have to turn it off.
Yeah, you may
Okay,
want.
Can you turn off commenting? Cause yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you very much. That's really, looks really great. Dan, anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to commissioners' comments, questions, and future agenda item. I'll start with Commissioner Corn.
I'm scrolling right now. I wanted to read you a text that I got, early morning, last week. It says, good morning. I thought I would let you know that I just used the road commission form for road service and it was super easy. And that was from Randy Fulis, our undersheriff, who wanted us to know how much she liked it. And I promised that I would share it and let you guys know. So it's just timely that you brought it up. I was gonna read it now, but,
Cool.
he just wanted to give you guys a big thumbs up and there you go.
And those
All right.
guys get around, so, yeah.
They do.
Thank you. How about you?
Just a real quick question. You know, my wife wanted to watch the meeting. And
Oh,
I,
I'm sorry.
what?
She wanted to watch the.
Yeah, I know.
He wants to make sure she's actually.
Yeah. So,
You know.
in any event, where is the link for this meeting that you can see it? I mean,
It's
where-
not live, is it?
Yes.
It is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I looked high and low, and if I can't find it, I'm kind of technically, I just couldn't find it.
So if you go on the top of the agenda,
Up on the
I
top.
watched you guys in Thailand.
But that's fine at the top of the agenda, but,
Yeah, Chuck is.
okay, so you need to go to the site, download the agenda, then click on the top of the agenda.
you don't need to download, you just need to click on the agenda, then.
Well, it downloads the PDF.
And then you just click on that link right there,
Okay.
and then it
Um,
gives you to the.
Can I just make a recommendation so that, I mean, because people may not even wanna, they don't think that's where it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Just maybe a button say, watch live.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't take up that much space, I wouldn't think.
I'm sure we can put some on there like.
I mean, just even in meeting and agendas, live.
Current meeting or live meeting
Yeah.
or something like.
Yeah,
that.
live meeting would be good.
It would only
Because-
be active when it's live.
Live.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because when we click on that link there, it'll take us to our YouTube page with all.
Right.
The recordings and everything.
And you've been getting those up pretty quick. I mean,
Yeah, we
Not
typically will
watching
do it on Friday.
yeah.
We'll
so-
typically do it on that. I know there was a little lull during like
Yeah.
spring break and stuff like that, but.
Cool.
No, I watched you guys from Thailand. I even texted Larry
Oh,
during
yeah.
it. Yeah, I mean, I could easily get to it and watch it. Yeah. it was
Yeah,
really
she'd
exciting.
watch a little of the meeting, then she'd look out those nice roads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Commissioner Lehman.
I think we've talked about this before, but I would like to see our bid information, as we put it, appear on our website and also the bid results. They're very difficult to find. I have spoken about this before, and I think to be transparent, I can go to counties, I can go out to Benzie and see what they're bidding, how much the bids were, and that Leelanau has historical bids like 100 years on their website
Hmm.
or something. I don't believe we're transparent enough but we put the bids like for wedging and we put them on but we don't put it our own way, and we submit it to Builders Exchange, maybe Larry, I don't know. Not anymore.
Do we do Builders Exchange? Yes, we are, and here's our guy right here.
Okay.
You gotta help us out.
I think it's a real, I don't think we do good enough.
Yeah.
And, you know, cause I have a Mitten account, I can go in and look what the bids are.
Sure.
But it's not easy. It's kind of a hassle. And then because the results aren't submitted through them, they're submitted to us. They don't keep track of them. Or they don't have that information. You can't go back on there after the bids are over and see how much the bids were.
Right.
That's not good for a public agency. So please, at a reasonable timeline, I really would like to start seeing that.
All right, Scott.
Do you want history?
I added it to my list.
This year going forward.
Well, I think maybe we could go, we don't need to go back 100 years, but maybe we should go back a year.
Okay, good idea. I've got a couple of questions. First, in our packet on page 39, I was a little confused when I looked at the budget for Town Line to Hammond to South Airport. For Crush and Shape, it lists amended budget as 415,597, remaining budget 414,878. That doesn't sound right to me.
That includes overhead. I initially had 400,000 just as a placeholder for that.
Okay,
And then whatever the overhead calculates, gets added to each individual project.
so the total cost of the project is what? Because we have been talking about somewhere around 200. This on a.
So
package-
200 hard dollars. So I budgeted 400 hard dollars and then indirect costs allocated to that another, 20,000 or.
Okay, okay. So these numbers are these are not the actual, but shouldn't these numbers then be amended to reflect the new numbers?
We
for
just
Town
approve
Line?
those tonight. I think your next budget adjustment, you'll see.
I'll adjust it, but we do charge. So we are required to take overhead and redistribute that to the activities that we work on. So we do it for all of our projects, all of our routine maintenance, winter maintenance. So whatever actual costs we have as overhead gets spread back out. We do provisional rates throughout the year. So when you look at the financial statements under the overhead, same as fringe, you'll see actual costs and then you'll see a credit for what we estimated that's getting expensed in the other activities. And then at the end of the year, we zero that out, we true it up.
Yeah.
And I try to incorporate that into our budget as well.
It reflects the whole cost of the project.
No, I understand
Within the
that.
budget, I'm
But-
looking at labor, I'm looking at material, payables, and then I have the allocation items, which is equipment, fringe and overhead.
You're right. I understand that. My question was more in terms of, we talked about scaling back the Town Line Road project several months ago, and based upon that, we came up with new numbers. Those new numbers were not.
They're not, that's.
So that's my
next month,
question,
yeah.
right?
After the
Right,
dust
okay.
is, the
You're
dust
looking
is
at what
starting to
we
settle.
approved originally.
Yeah.
Tonight, we reapproved. Like, we would
Okay.
have said no tonight, we would have probably defaulted back.
Okay.
So Dan, the other thing, you were in the middle of this. Go ahead.
No, I'm talking about, I'm done with this question. I had another question. I got an email from a somewhat irate individual. Wanted to know why we are doing the project on Cass Road between Hartman and Keystone and not between Hartman and South Airport, which is much worse.
We're doing both. This is a two-part project.
Okay,
Two federal jobs.
It's two federal jobs.
okay.
That was the MPO project.
So that's the
It's an
MPO
MPO project. For some reason, the way it was advertised, and maybe it was through the media, I think it was through that they talked about doing it between Hartman and Keystone. They did not mention Hartman, second part, which was Hartman and South Airport. I think it was in one of the newspapers. I can't remember. if it
Yeah,
was
it's gonna be
directly-
a two-phase
Yeah.
project.
They didn't report it that way, so of course, I got emails.
Of course you
You
did.
know, all those businesses are there. You don't care about the businesses. Okay. So those were my two questions.
Oh, it reflects on this. So tonight you talked about the chip sealing you're gonna do on Town Line Road and the wedging. Is there a budget for shoulder gravel and that kind of stuff still in there? I didn't see a line item for that. But is it, I know originally we proved 400, but you have not talked to us about that. Was the contractor bids in there?
If we were gonna do any shoulder gravel, it would probably be with our own internal.
Well, when they wedge that, it's gonna need shoulder gravel. You don't have it included. That's my ask. Okay.
I'd have to look. I thought there was. There's
Chris, some,
there's the aggregate in the wedge contract.
Okay, it's in the way, it's in those, because they were project bid. It's in the projects.
Yeah. I have to look, but when I looked over the wedging contract, I remember seeing it. I know.
The lead contract remains the same, where our
We
big
were
savings
amending the
is
amendment. had to
chip
be with
seal.
the seal.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the chip sealer
Which
was
is
not
awesome.
to shoulder gravel.
Any other?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not you. You don't have to be sorry about that. That's the agenda item.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next item is public comment. Would anyone from the public want to make a comment at this point?
I just say thank you.
Because you.
Thank
the
you.
public Here.
Thank you very much for your consideration and all the thought, and thank that guy right there who meets with me regularly, talks with me regularly, and thank you.
It's a
Dave, for
different world right
everything.
now, isn't it?
Yeah,
We are listening to the townships.
Yeah. More, I understand.
More so than ever
Yeah.
in the past, in my opinion. You know, we have made a very concern. Okay,
Move to adjourn.
Support? I'll support it. We are adjourned.
Very about. Dan Garfield adjourned. Garfield adjourned their mission, their meetings differently.
At the call of the chair.
You do not have to have a